Hey guys, welcome back to Themis and Thought. Grab your coffee, water, tea. I'm actually trying to figure out how I should start this live, right? Like, I have what I think is a treat towards the end, but you know me, I want to have the dessert before the dinner. I feel like I should jump into this. Well, I'm trying to figure out how I should do this. Like, I think the funniest part of this entire live stream is going to be the end if I make it the end. And me even talking about it now is just annoying. So, like, let me explain. There's a video of people discussing someone who shall not be named right now. And this man came on there to say he's learned his lesson and he went home to tell his wife that his wife now needed to contribute financially. And I feel like I'm going to leave that to the end. You know how these discussions go. Please don't let me forget. I'm going to save it to the end. I think I should save it to the end. I'm going to save it to the end. All right. So instead of doing that, here's what we're going to do now. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Caribbean Queen, welcome. Nurse Fancy, welcome. Vitamin. Erica, by the way, um, I was going to play Erica's video. She posted a video today. I think it's 4 minutes long. If you have, Erica, I'm tired of you dragging. Um, Her drags are just so like poignant. Like I'm done. I'm done. I was planning on like playing part of her video, but I won't. If you haven't seen Erica's video from today, please go watch it. Please go watch it. All right. All right. I'm laughing because this is supposed to be a really lovely live stream. It should. It is supposed to be a really good live stream, but I feel I can sense the mess. Like I have a spidey sense. My spidey sense is tingling, and the mess is here. Um, so let's start. There
Oh, I
is
had to learn
this
this. I do.
video that is going viral. I think her name is Chanel. You remember that lady that is getting with her husband that is getting sued or getting investigated for fraud. I'm pretty sure it was in Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure it was in Pennsylvania. Well, she made a video, and for the first time, I'm going to open the panel in my pre-show before we get into the show. So we're going to open the panel in a minute for the pre-show as we watch this. And the people who should come on are people who are going to defend her. That's it. I only want people who are defending her in the pre-show. All right. Are you guys ready? Let's watch together.
Oh, I had to learn this. I do not correct my husband. I believe that it is my responsibility to have the confidence to give him my perspective. Then we can talk about it and he can self-correct. I love him so much and I desire to honor and respect him. And I married him, so I would assume that he wants me to feel the same exact way. To take my perspective into high consideration with his actions. But I married a grown man. I'm not going to be disrespectful and talk to him like a child.
All right. Let me let me say quick. look let me invite you. So anyone who is defending this, I would like for you to come defend this quickly. And the reason is very simply, a lot of people have been talking about this video and saying how great it is and this is the truth. And unless I am mistaken, correction is necessary for everyone, even from a sort of biblical perspective. And maybe I'm wrong because you know me and the Bible. I trust in things that I don't fully understand. But I thought, I literally thought that if you were wrong, you would like to be corrected. Like I'm not even claiming men or women, like at all. Like I don't even care about sex, gender. I don't care. But my assumption is that if you are incorrect, if you're doing something wrong, if you're just wrong, period, you correction should be given. Now, I'm not saying being insulting to someone or degrading them or being annoying in any way. I'm saying, please, let me be clear. Correct me. Correct. What do you mean? Is your husband above being corrected? Like that doesn't make sense to me. But then she says she gives her opinion. So I don't know how people are being correction. Like I'm assuming a child can correct their parent in certain situation. Like if you're signing my report card and I told you where to sign it and you're signing it in the wrong place as a child, I'm going to tell you where to sign it properly because you're not in the school. Like, I don't understand. How do I join? Someone said, how do I join? Here's the link. Um, Themis, can you play it again? I'll play it again. It's very, very low though. I don't know why, and I can't turn it up, but I'll play it again.
Oh, I had to learn this. I do not correct my husband. I believe that it is my responsibility to have the confidence to give him my perspective. Then we can talk about it and he can self correct. I love him so much and I desire to honor and respect him. And I married him, so I would assume that he wants me to feel the same exact way. To take my perspective into high consideration with his actions. But I married a grown man. I'm not going to be disrespectful and talk to him like a child. Oh, I had to learn.
Someone said correcting feels weird. Maybe she meant not. I don't know what that means. No, I'm a correct. No, correct. If if you're putting the eggs in the refrigerator wrong, I'm going to correct you. Absolutely, I'm going to correct you. And I would hope you correct. If you're doing something wrong, you should be corrected. I don't really care. Literally, y'all want to take these little sound bites and make them cute. And I hate these things too. Like these little weird sayings about like, you should love me for what I have and what I don't have. Why not just love you for what you have? Why don't I have no? Like I don't understand. I don't understand. What do you mean? Is your partner's ego that fragile that if you are correcting them, it's the problem? Look, by the way, do not take dating advice from me. This is not dating advice. Babe, I think 1 plus 1 is 2. What do you think? Nope, it is. It is. I was going to do a weird dance. 1 plus 1 is Bell. Period. So, seeing that no one is clicking that link to come up and defend, I'm assuming we're all on one accord. Um, hey, Sober Bobo, welcome. Areas of improvement. Literally dying because of it. All right, period. All right, wait, I have one more. I have one more.
Well, do you understand what perjury?
So there is this lady. This lady went on a date, and apparently the man misrepresented something about the date or himself or whatever. And so she's in court trying to sue him for 10K for because of perjury. sorry, sorry, this is not okay. So this lady took this man to court to sue him for perjury because he lied about, about something on a date. And this is so bad. Let me play it. Let me mute my mic.
Well, do you understand what perjury is?
Yes, I
even
understand
understand what
perjury is
perjury
a
is.
lie. I
No, you
know what
don't. You
perjury
don't.
means.
Perjury is a statement, a false statement made under oath. So what
Exactly.
statement did he
And
make
I got
under oath that's
documents that
false?
prove he was lying.
You don't understand. It's a false
he put a
statement made
document,
under
he
oath.
placed a
Under
document
oath.
that stated a
When did he
lie.
testify to something that he lied about? It's a false statement made under oath.
Bottom line is you said it's a criminal offense, so I will send it to circuit court. Are we done here?
No, you don't understand, ma'am. You don't understand.
Are we done here? Are we done here?
Perjury
here?
is perjury
what
is
perjury
a
means.
false
I know exactly what
statement
perjury
made
means.
under
I know
oath.
what perjury means. Are we done
No,
here?
you
Is it a
don't.
criminal offense or not?
What statement? I don't see anything in the complaint that says he made some false statement under oath.
Because you don't know what happened. You're on the outside.
Well, do you understand what perjury is?
You know what? I'm assuming this is not real either. I mean, it might be, but how did you not dismiss that case on paper? Like, how are we having an oral argument instead of like a motion to dismiss? Maybe they're arguing the motion to dismiss. Because this does not make sense. If you are a court and someone submits a claim in civil court, you could literally file a 12. I'm not even going to go in. I'm not going into this. There's absolutely no judge that I'm aware of, but I don't know every judge, right? And some judges are elected and some are appointed, blah, blah, blah. And this is a local area, I don't know. So it is possible that this happened. But in a civil case, when you file a claim, a complaint, the other person can respond and have it dismissed. Now, if they are going there to represent themselves and they don't have an attorney, then maybe, but like this should have been dismissed on paper, not like at a hearing getting yelled at. In any case, this is not what our video is about. Today's video is going to be about self-worth and self-esteem, and in the Black community, the ways in which we decide to adapt to our environment, both from a male and a female perspective, a woman and a man. I think it's important because I watched one of these TEDx talk, and I thought it was good when I watched it and I was younger. I had issues with what the man was saying. But as I watched more and more of it, I realized how terrible it was. And then a woman does kind of a similar TEDx talk, and it actually was very different. Now, the outcome for both of them were the same-ish. So we're gonna get into those two videos. Actually, there's a part of me that just want to skip these video and skip this discussion. I'm not, because I think it's important, and go to the end where that man is telling his wife that he needs to go work. She needs to work because he doesn't want to die young. All right, so let's start this video now. All right. So let's do a vote. 1 for men, 2 for women, right? Do you want to watch the man's video first or the woman's video? Drop a 1 for man and a 2 for woman. And while that vote is going on, and I literally just forgot, one for men, two for women. Two. All right. I'm seeing more ones than two. Did so the man's video will go first. Um, should I do? Yeah. All right, we're gonna do the man's video first. All right, and I'll explain some issues that I have with it and the concessions in it. Before we start, one of the really sad things that I've come to realize when it comes to imposter syndrome, Vanessa actually talked about this on the channel before, and how it is not actually that you feel like an imposter because of your own fear that you're not good enough based on your ideas about what good enough means. It is the aggression, microaggression, not in the sort of colloquial sense, that we experience in certain environment that are done to make you feel unworthy, right? And so taking on imposter syndrome as if it's something that needs to be fixed by yourself because you've imposed it on yourself mentally is not a good way, Vanessa thinks, to approach imposter syndrome. You have to accept that the environment, corporate environment that is predominantly white, sometimes feels hostile to people who are not white. And I think her reframing of imposter syndrome, I don't know if you guys remember this live, but her reframing that in real time I thought was amazing, because one of the problems with studying imposter syndrome and understanding it is that the psychological literature is not robust at all, really, in that area, right? And in terms of how people feel when it comes to being an imposter, I think obviously there's part of it that is personal, internal, but I've never actually thought about the sort of external pressures and aggression that one might face in a work environment, and why it would be different for a man versus a woman, for a black person versus a white person, and all of that kind of stuff. And the conversations about imposter syndrome aren't necessarily isolated to the black community, but I think the black community experience it. Let me rephrase, not the black community, but specific people in the black community who engage in specific kinds of work that requires interactions outside of the community on a consistent basis. Those people's experience of imposter syndrome might be due to the environment and a rejection of them, or aggression, microaggression. I don't like calling it microaggression because it diminishes the importance, but in any case, we're going to move on from imposter syndrome on one hand. On the other, our coping mechanism, right? So now we're talking about young people, black people, white people, everyone in school, and what we do in an effort to fit in. We either accept that we are sort of rejects and we go about our way, or we find a group that we are going to conform ourselves to, right? We are either going to become the A student or the regular student, regular, or the students who fail, right? We are going to excel, or we are not going to excel, or maybe just coast by. That is not always based on our own ability and applying our own ability to the work that we are doing. Most of the time, it is to fit in to a social group. That is generally what happens when we are young people in high school growing up. The issue becomes, what groups are we trying to become a part of? And that's where these TEDx, I'm no reject, period. And that's where these TEDx conversations are going to come in, right? I don't think I've ever played TEDx on here, so I'm pretty sure we're about to get booted off the internet. If we do, we'll be right back. All right. So we're going to the gentleman first, and then we'll go to the woman. I will be pausing and we'll be commenting throughout.
Rejection. Do you remember the last time you felt rejected? Was it a guy that never returned a phone call, or a father that never came around? Was it a boss who overlooked you for a promotion? Or maybe it was someone in your life who never thought you were good enough, no matter what you did to try to impress them. We all know rejection hurts. It stings. It makes us feel like we're not good enough. It causes us to question ourselves, our future. I submit to you that rejection isn't something we should be afraid of. And it sure isn't something that should make us get discouraged, depressed, or work unhealthy amounts of hours just to prove to the world that we are somebody worth loving and paying attention to. Rather, rejection is our friend.
All right. So I agree, as a general matter, that your personhood should not be predicated, and the value in your personhood should not be predicated on the sort of economic output. Like, you're human, and by virtue of being human that exists, I do think there is value, right? Unless you start doing bad things, as a general matter. I don't accept that rejection is your friend. I don't think there's any way to reframe rejection to not feel horrible when you're rejected. But so far I was on board. If you have watched this video, you might actually agree with him. I fundamentally disagree with his framing of this entire conversation. It happens mostly towards the end. I'm not opposed to what he's saying now, but as he starts getting into it, I need to point out some very specific things that I think are problematic. And it's the acceptance of white superiority, for example, that will come up. And I'll explain it when it does.
And not our enemy. I'm going to share 2 ways that we can see rejection in order to leverage those moments of pain to be the greatest catalyst to our success and proof of our value and uniqueness. The first way that we can view rejection is by seeing it as projection, a psychological projection. A psychological projection is when someone subconsciously employs undesirable feelings or emotions onto someone else rather than admitting to or dealing with their own unwanted feelings. When we can see how the rejections we face may have more to do with another person's inward turmoil and not our own value, our lives will change. Rather than shrink back, get discouraged, or play it safe, we'll move forward in life with confidence and high esteem. One of my most painful moments of rejection happened when I was in the 3rd grade. I wanted to be popular, to be liked, to be loved, and to be respected. And thankfully, I was. I was in an advanced learning class, which meant that I was one of 2 black students in an all-white class. And this wasn't a bad thing. I was known as the cool big black kid. They called me Goon. I was one of the smartest kids in the class. People cheated off my tests. They laughed at my jokes. Life was great. Until one day, as I was returning back to class from a bathroom break, I noticed a group of black students circled together, laughing hysterically. Me being the confident, charismatic, outgoing guy that I was, I decided I was going to go over to them and get in on the jokes. So I walked over to these students and I said, "Hey, y'all, what's so funny?" No one answered. I spoke up. "Man, what y'all over there laughing about?" And just as I was finishing my sentence, one of the guys in the group turned towards me and said, "You're what's funny, white boy." The crowd erupted in laughter, and I, feeling embarrassed, ashamed, and rejected, returned to my class to soon learn that I was known in our school as the black kid that talks and acts white. I allowed that moment of rejection to diminish my confidence and my self-esteem. Rather than celebrate my own uniqueness, I began a long journey of changing who I was to fit in with this black community. I changed the way that I dressed, the way that I talked, the music I listened to. I even changed the way that I laughed. I started skipping school, selling drugs, and making poor decisions, all because I wanted to gain their approval and their acceptance. And you know what? It worked. They accepted me. They embraced me. I got street cred. But deep down inside, I knew it wasn't me who they accepted. It was who I was pretending to be. And the more they adored this false version of me, the more rejected the real me felt the entire time. You see, I didn't understand that sometimes rejection is projection. a projection of someone's own fears and insecurities onto another person. Those students who made fun of me were deeply insecure. They were unsure of themselves. They were afraid to do anything outside of what their peers thought was acceptable. And because they didn't know how to be their unique selves, they projected their fears and insecurities onto me in the form of mockery and jokes. Because sometimes talking bad about others makes people feel better about themselves. If I would have been able to see their rejection as projection, I would have never taken their jokes personally. I wouldn't have wasted years of my life trying to earn their approval and their acceptance. I would have stayed true to who I was, and I probably would have felt more sorry for them than I was for myself. And I believe that properly handling rejection is a crucial component to ending the rising anxiety, depression, and suicide rates in our nation and world. In fact, one study from the Oxford Handbook of Social Exclusion stated that rejection is both a cause and a consequence of depression. I mean, think about it. Have you ever felt down after you got rejected? Maybe it was a group of coworkers who invited everyone out for drinks after work, except for you. Or what about people who won't invest their money into your vision and dream? Those are situations that cause people to dislike themselves, give up, gain a ton of weight from emotional eating, and binge watch Netflix. But I've learned that we don't have to allow rejection to make us do that crazy stuff. We can leverage our moments of rejections to produce confidence and success. I did. Once I discovered that the rejection I faced in the 3rd grade was actually a projection of those students' own issues, I was able to see the beauty in my own difference. Honestly, they had something right about me. I was the black kid that talked and acted white, and I still am. Being me. I was the black kid that talked and acted white, and I still am. Honestly, they had something right about me. I was the black kid that talked and acted white. Prince. Honestly, they had something right about me. I was the black kid that talked and acted white. Prince. Honestly, they had something right about me. I was the black kid that talked and acted white. Prince. Honestly, they had something right about me. I was the black kid that talked and acted white, and I still am.
Riddle me this. Do you see what the problem is yet? Please let me know if you see what the problem is. It is one thing. Calm down. Calm down. It is one thing to be told you talk and act white. Right? That's one thing. That is separate. That sounds like other people's insecurity. Though in my experience, the people who want to be told, I don't know. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Absolutely, I'm going to do it. Let's do all of it. In my experience, the people who claim other people told them they talk and act white are actually looking for people to tell them they talk and act white. They actually want to come out and tell you that they talk and act white. Now, look, if that's what floats your boat, that's what floats your boat. If I tell any human being they talk white, I don't know if I would ever say you act white. If I've ever told anyone they talked white, it must have been when I just came to the US. And I'm specifically talking about, if I say you sound white, I'm talking about the Valley Girl accent. I'm talking about you sounding precisely like Kim Kardashian. Or for men, it's the surfer boy dude kind of talking. It has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, let me just say that it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with how you sound. It has nothing to do with how smart you are, the words that you use. But I am not rejecting the notion that there are people who get insulted by other Black people who tell them they act white. What I find as a general matter is the people who retell these stories do something that this man just did, which is they take pride in it. They too believe that they talk and act white. Like he he is full blown accepting that the way he talks and acts is white, and that's fine with him because that's who he is. He literally just said, "I am the man, the boy. I was the boy who talks and act white, and I still am." What? No, sir. No, no. What does it mean to talk and act white? Please let me know. Please. What about you? Because there's absolutely nothing that you have done or and you don't sound white to me. And literally no one, no. Drop a one in the chat if he sounded white to you. Drop a two if he sound like regular. I don't know what it means when you're like, oh, you talk like I because you used to call me burnt cracker because Oreo wasn't enough, but I didn't become a dealer though. I saw that no. It's not even not all these twos. It's not even just that. Thank you, Natal. It's not even just that. It is him say he is claiming it. He is literally claiming it right now. Like full blown claiming it. Not only is he claiming it, he is pointing out something in the African American community regarding be what it means to be black. Because he's saying the black people rejected him. That this is his claim. Black people rejected him when he was doing well in school, and then they accepted him when he started selling drugs and speaking the way that I guess black people speak, acting the way that black people act, and they accepted him. So he now has reverted to being quote unquote white, to talking and acting white. And he's accepting that his performance of who he is talking and acting white. Like he's accepting, like it's one thing to say, people keep telling me this and people keep dragging me and telling me that I talk white. It's another thing to fully accept that you looking like this is talking and acting white. Like you're fully accepting it. Not only are you accepting it, you are painting other look, we have problems in the black community, but I'm not going to sit here and just like laugh when someone is like painting the black community as this. White is not a sound or a language, and you're not going to convince me otherwise.
Being the black kid that talks and acts white has enabled me to be versatile as a speaker and work with people.
So, we'll come again, selector. I can't. I literally can't. Like, this is so cringy and annoying to me. This is so cringy and annoying.
I was the black kid that talked and acted white, and I still am. Being the black kid that talks and acts white has enabled me to be versatile as a speaker and work with people from all different walks of life. I can speak to gang members in the street, and I can speak to executives in the boardroom. I can.
You can speak to gang members in the street. Is that you being black? And you can speak to executives in the corporate world. Is that you being white? Like, let me. Period. I can. I can. And it's sad because he started off so good. This TED Talk started off so well. First live. Welcome, 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 welcome.
I can help addicts live free from addiction, and I can coach elite athletes to discover their purpose beyond sports. The very thing that made them reject me has become a crucial component to my success and has made me effective at helping others. And it's all because I learned to see rejection as projection and figured out how to use.
Princess, you are in the corner. You are literally, you're on timeout. Princess is on timeout. Princess is on timeout. I mean, that's the vibe we all get.
Use it for my good. The second way that we can see rejection is by viewing it as protection. Protection from something or someone that isn't meant to be in our lives anymore. I learned this lesson after life rejected my dreams of playing in the NFL. I went to Central Michigan University on a full ride scholarship to play Division I football. Sports was the way that I was going to become rich and famous so that I could buy my parents a house and get all of my family out of poverty. I had so many coaches and players who told me that because of my height, my speed, and my athleticism, that there was no doubt that I would one day play in the NFL. Unfortunately, I ruptured a disc in my back my freshman year, and this injury ended my college career. Life had rejected all that hard work I put in. Rather than view my sports injury as protection from a career path that wasn't the best for me, I took it.
All right. Well, it doesn't get any better or worse. So let's go to the young lady. And by young lady, this is a grown woman who is going to give what needs to be given. So we're talking about being rejected and what people do in when they are rejected. There is actually a cultural commentary that is very gendered that we should get into when we start the discussion. But I want you to hear the distinction that is going to be drawn. Actually, see it for yourself. Someone said I spoiled too much of the first one, so let me not do it for this one. Someone said he is bilingual. Yeah, I should not be doing this. Why would you do this? Why would you say he's bilingual? And that is work, not his college career. Who said he was bilingual again? Y'all need to stop.
I have struggled with feelings of unworthiness for as long as I can remember. From the outside, my life looked pretty perfect when I was growing up. My parents had a happy marriage, were supportive, and earned enough for us to be more than comfortable. I was mostly happy, but I also had a deep sense that something was wrong with me. My most painful moments were at parties. When I went to black parties, my friends made fun of me because I was rhythmically challenged and I couldn't get my awkward middle school body to mimic the latest dance moves. As the only black girl at parties associated with my predominantly white school, I was never chosen to dance. I was never the object of anyone's attention. I felt like I didn't belong. So around age 12, I decided that the way to cure these feelings of unworthiness was perfection. Simple, right? If I was just perfect, then I would fit in. I would be chosen. I would really be happy. So I threw myself into formal dance classes, worked hard in school, and tried to be a supportive and selfless friend.
All right. All right. So both people, wait, no, this is funny. Both people are being rejected. One of them, there's environmental issues here, right? But on one hand, she decided to build herself up, be perfection embodied, personified, and do a ton of work. He decided that he was going to hang out with thugs. So we're already seeing a divergence, right? Now, are we willing to talk about the acculturation for men and the acculturation for women separately and what that impact has here? Y'all can do that. That's fine. That's great. But I do think this is kind of important. You see how the path diverge. Now, they all come back because that man seems to have been successful, so he made it somehow. She also is successful. She made it somehow. But her path with rejection and his rejection were very different. And I think this is important because the bitterness that came from the man is not here. That's the first thing. Second thing is, there is no part of her, it seems, that saying, I am white. And that's very important to me. There is no point at which she's like, there's no point where she's like, I am white now, and I talk white, and I am white. Like, what?
My self-esteem was high when I got good grades and felt included, but crashed when I didn't do well academically or was left out. In college, busyness became my key strategy for trying to feel worthy. I juggled classes and tutoring and the Black Student Union and student government and sorority and the
DJ, y'all need to stop. Look, wait. Y'all need to stop in these comments. Y'all are not gonna do this. All of you that I just posted your comments, you're in the corner. You absolutely. Someone just said he became a kingpin because they heard his feelings. Kay now talking about she channel Candace Owens spirit. Stop. Y'all are not gonna do this.
gospel choir and step team, barely giving myself time to breathe, to think, to be. After college, my attention turned to trying to find a relationship to fill the void. The anxiety and ups and downs I experienced in this quest were exhausting. I remember going out to bars and clubs, and just like in junior high, was rarely the one chosen to dance. I began to question my attractiveness. Would my brown skin and kinky hair be accepted by a potential partner? Despite these questions, I held on to the hope that if I could just find someone to love me, then I would finally feel worthy. I'll let you in on a secret. None of it worked. Not the perfectionism, the busyness, the relationships. Well, maybe some of it did for a moment. Right after starting a new relationship or getting a good grade, I felt worthy. But soon enough, my feelings of self-worth slipped away and I was on to pursuing the next thing. As soon as I reached the bar I had set for my worth, it was raised. Have you ever experienced that? I'm standing here today because after several years of therapy, spiritual growth, and a PhD in clinical psychology, I have begun to cultivate an
A PhD in clinical psychology, period. Let's take a moment and wait. This has nothing to do with the video, but let's take a moment. So she is feeling rejected. So she decided that she was going to be perfectionism personified, goes off to get her PhD and just do what needs to be done. Now, obviously, none of this is going to fill whatever void you have inside of you, like just an FYI. But the way she dealt with it, I think, is one which a capitalistic society rewards better. And I have to admit, this is also the way I don't do what I do because of inadequacy, but this is how I deal with life. I dig my heel in and go. So I really appreciate this. If y'all really appreciate the man's take on rejection, please come forward and we can talk about that. If you like her take, then we can also talk. But I specifically like hers because of what it represents. Actually, right before I came on, Erica sent me something. Sorry, Erica. And it was the stat, I think, from 2015. Now it has only increased, where Black women are just going to school at a higher rate, starting businesses at a higher rate. And I think the ways in which Black women are dealing with the stress of being in the society that most will argue has white supremacist underpinning or is white supremacist itself, the way that they're dealing with it is very different than the ways in which black men have decided we have decided to deal with it. And the question is, obviously, I'm not going to ask which is right. I'm never going to ask that because I know where I come out on that. But is it possible that we can take that which the black woman is doing and the black woman's approach and make the black men do the same thing? Is that a fair thing to expect? Right? And when we think about a patriarchy, how do people show up in a quote unquote patriarchy that might be helpful or hurtful to them? I think this is important. I think the story, I think her story, not just for her sake, is important for Noble B. By the way, I don't know if I said thank you for your super chat. Thank you. Her story, I think, is emblematic of not the attractive part, but the digging in to school and perfectionism is one that I think a lot of black women resonate with. I mean, I feel I'm doing a video that I'm editing on my second channel about things that I've learned about my own perfectionism and where it came from and all of that stuff. I will have that up this weekend. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. And I think part of it is included in this discussion. It is about the ways in which different people decide to either break under the pressure of a capitalistic America or attempt to rise to the occasion, even if they fail trying. I think this is important. And her PhD is a plus, not a minus. I don't really care what anyone says. We associate black women with perfection and black men. Concern.
And unconditional self-worth. I'm shedding the belief that I'm not good enough. The anxiety that not doing things perfectly or meeting the right person means that I'm not okay. I'm embracing myself, quirks and all. And this new path is liberating, enlivening, and life-giving. Let me share what I've learned with you in the hopes that you'll join me on this journey to unconditional self-worth. You may be wondering if this is just another talk on self-esteem. No. Self-worth is distinct from self-esteem. Our self-esteem is derived from our abilities, accomplishments, social positions, and things we believe we can achieve. We can bolster our self-esteem by improving our skills or performance, and our self-esteem goes up and down depending on how we're doing in various aspects of our lives. In contrast, unconditional self-worth is distinct from our abilities and accomplishments. It's not about comparing ourselves to others. It's not something that we can have more or less of. Unconditional self-worth is the sense that you deserve to be alive, to be loved and cared for, to take up space. As a clinical psychologist,
Her name is Addie Gooden. It's at the top right here. Adiagooden. I actually wanted to pause here, and I'm about to open the panel in a minute because I actually do want to get to the other stuff. But when she talked about sort of being valued as a human being, not for what you can achieve, but for your value. One of the things that I've noticed, and I think this is the flip side of perfectionism that stems from a need to prove oneself, right? The minute you fail in school, the minute you fail in a relationship, the minute you fail, all of that comes crashing down and you get pushed to the very next thing. Even in success, you now have to create a new goal for yourself to meet that because you cannot settle down if you tie your self-worth and everything to anything external. It is fleeting. And I think while I don't completely think one should detach themselves from how much they can produce for themselves in a capitalistic society, and I'm going to get dragged for that. Um, I don't think I think there is a healthy dose of feeling like you are investing in yourself, investing in your family, investing in your community. There needs to be a healthy dose of being tied to that in some ways, I believe. Not projecting, just saying. And I think for a lot of people, Black women in particular, I think a lot of the women that I've interacted with, and I haven't really done, I'll explain what I haven't done in a minute, but the people that I've interacted with have been hyper focused on building, building, building. And there are times when I wonder if there's community mindedness from the Black women that I've met is due to actually wanting to build a community, which I think it is, or to distract from their own personal feelings, right? And I hope that we all, not just Black women, but every human being, can get to the point where your value is not completely predicated on that which you can produce. That is the one thing that I do wish for everyone, myself included, because I do tie a lot of my self identity, my identity to that which I'm doing. Not actually being like my actual career, but like my ability to help and feel like I can give to someone. The point at which I feel like I can't give, I feel useless, honestly. Like if people are in need and I can't provide, that kind of takes me out of my it takes me off center. I hope that makes sense. And I don't think that's a good thing. Black women way of confronting social stressors is adaptive. Black men's largely maladaptive. That's the difference. So I was trying to stay away from using these two words. The reason is I do think there is a point at which Black women's work becomes too much, right? And you are the expectation that you continue to carry a load that is too much is still there without help. And I don't know if I would classify that as um, fully adaptive, right? Like, I think it is adaptive because I think uh, if we're going to sort of quantify value by output, which is all we can do generally in today's society in the Western world, then yes, it is adaptive because you are able to produce, right? Now, whether a Black man is maladaptive, that part, like I think we kind of, if we're looking at it from a community perspective, and we're talking about the prison sentencing, maybe drug use, even though I don't see it in the same way. If we're talking about violence, then yes, it's very strictly maladaptive. I don't think that's interesting for this discussion. I think it's important, but I don't think it's interesting for this discussion. I think Black women's adaptive um, mechanisms is more interesting because I do understand that on one front we can say this is good. Adaptive mean this is a good way for coping in this new world. Um, but can it become dangerous for the people who engage in it? I mean, if you don't, no one else will. But I do think that's something we need to explore more. Um, not me wanting to tell Black women to rest. I mean, ultimately, that what I'm saying is we need more rest. And by we, I should exclude myself because my group don't need no more rest. We need to work harder. But I think you guys need to rest. Should I open the panel now? I feel like this is a good place to stop to start the conversation because I do believe the conversation is going to change gears, and I don't necessarily want it to. I'm going to open the panel. I'm going to open the panel. That's what I'm going to do. Sorry, I'm reading while I'm trying to post something. That men are maladaptive if you ask me. What the exception? No. I'm not. No. We haven't. What I don't disagree. I, I don't. I'm not disagreeing with the statement. I'm just ignoring the black man portion of the conversation because I don't think it's interesting. If you pull out the stats, then obviously that's going to be right, right? So, like for me, it's not interesting. What's interesting is should we be telling women to put the burden down, and what would that mean? And is our black women's approach to the new world adaptive in a productive way? I think that's more interesting. The other part, like the black man part, is uninteresting because it's very obvious to me the answer on that.
Hey,
Uh,
Boo. Oh, go.
hey, how are
Sorry.
you? No, you're fine.
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Wait, someone said I'm gonna pronounce the word violence the way Themis does from now. Sorry, go ahead. I'm doing well, concerned. What say you? There are some more people in the back, but the timer is here.
Okay. So for me, what I say is that I find it frustrating because in those two stories, you heard a black woman say she joined normal black things, even though she was a part of a predominantly white school. She talked about going to the black parties. She talked about joining historically black activities like step class and deciding to lean into her blackness. You know, when she realized she couldn't dance, she decided she was going to take a dance class.
Wait. And the Black Student Association.
And the BSU. Whereas the black man associated himself with activities that could get white acceptance. And so when I think so, and that also includes sports. When we think about the words that he chose, right? We talk about he went to a school that maybe he had white students, but he wasn't seemingly associating enough with the black people to know where the joke was. And so for me, what
Oh, you're going out.
observing the so what me for me what I notice is that most black men will shy away from the association with blackness in order to associate themselves with you know their come up story or whatever. Like black women's come up story usually leans into their blackness. Most black men who come up, be it Ben Carson, be it whatever, like a lot of the guys who become judges, whatever, the first thing they want to do is be an exceptional black man. And I find that, you asked about is black women's take adaptive? I don't, as a person who took that take, I'm going to tell you, I think it's maladaptive. I think that though I will never agree with TD Jakes, we're men and you need to like, don't come for me. I will say that I want black women to have I think that adaptive, work harder, do better, take on more is the reason why nobody cries for black women who are in pain. The fact that we just keep going really ends up making people lose a lot of empathy for how much we take on, as well as ourselves, because we always feel like if we were only more perfect, we would be able to, and it just makes us internalize this sense of deep self loathing a lot of times because we know all of our mistakes, even if other people don't. And so I would say that those are some of the observations I saw there. And I don't think it's adaptive. I think it's maladaptive. I think it's killing us because we also don't complain about when we're in pain. And I'm not trying to victim blame, but we don't complain about when we're in pain all the time. So I'll end it there. I saw the bell, heard the bell. But I just observed those two things and I wanted to call that out, guys.
Period. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think Ruled by Venus is next. Up she went. Up she came back. Ruled by Venus. You're muted. All right. Ruled by Venus going once, going twice. Sold. I'm kidding. Um, we'll come back to Ruled by Venus. I think Dahlia,
Can you
you're
guys hear me
muted.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, I'm really glad that we got to this topic because this is something I've actually been thinking about for quite a while. And I know that you had focused this conversation within the Black community, but I actually think it runs a little bit deeper than that. Um, are you familiar with what happened with in Uvalde, Texas, the school shooting there?
Yeah.
Okay. So when that school shooting happened, it really struck me because I had never actually seen a school shooting before where there was a Hispanic person involved. And it hit a core with me because it made me realize, oh, this isn't just like a white boy issue. This is just a boy issue. And I'm bringing this up because I think that um, there's a deep societal rot within Western society as a whole, but specifically America. And I think part of the reason why is specifically what you were addressing, which is that they don't think that they have any inherent value. I think that we teach our young men that in order for you to have value, that you have to acquire certain things, or you have to have certain jobs, or you have to have a certain income level. And when you do that to people, what ends up happening is that they devalue anybody who doesn't have those things. So then you end up getting men who look at women who maybe don't have a certain income level or who don't have a certain um, societal standard for beauty. They look at kids, elderly. They look at LGBTQ. Anybody who's not actually providing quote unquote value to them, they are valueless. And so, if you're in a household where maybe you're told that you don't have any value, you start devaluing everybody around you, and you're looking at them as less than human. And I honestly believe that's the reason why we're starting to see more and more of these school shootings because um, we haven't really addressed that issue. And rather than us focusing on guns so much, maybe we should be thinking about that because it really wouldn't matter if we got rid of those guns when we're looking at an issue of inherent human value and worth just because you're a human being.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I when I think about like the patriarchy, and I will this will all come back in the end when I'm talking about rather
Hmm.
this man who went home to tell his wife that she needs to do something with her degrees because he doesn't want to die early. Now, I don't know why you feel comfortable sharing that online after saying you're a follower of the manosphere, because it
Hmm.
highlights something that is fundamentally important. Like, I think this hints at kind of what you were saying. It is there is a role for man in a patriarchy, and
Hmm.
there is a box that society puts men in. And unless you are willing to allow women to step out of their box, your expectation can't be that women stay in that box and you get to leave yours, right? You
Right.
cannot want a woman to be submissive and all of that while they're also the provider. No, right? But also, you have to recognize as a man that the ways in which you are told not to cry, the ways in which you're told not to do this, not to do that, that affects you on an emotional level. I'm not
Yeah.
saying men should be around here crying every day. I don't really care. I'll cry whenever I feel like crying, and that's just on period. But I recognize that a lot of people don't feel comfortable adhering to what that box is, and they, instead of saying, look, I don't want to be this, I don't want to be this, I want to be more like that, because of that unwillingness to admit it, we're seeing a lot of, obviously you talked about the violence that happens, but we're
Hmm.
also seeing it online where
Yeah.
men are raging against women because they're like, why do I have to do this? Why won't you choose me? I should be good enough. I'm a man. We need to get back to the 1950s. I need power,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. all of that, I think, stems from this idea that, like, look, you're just not it. And then, like,
Yeah.
you are not measuring up to, you're not living up to the mantle of manhood. And instead of saying, you know what, I don't have to live up to that. I can be the best version of myself in this way. And I
Mhm.
can look for someone who is going to like me for that version of me. Now, they're trying to force you to like them for the fact that they can't live up to something that they think they should live up to.
Yeah, they
Um,
want to lower you down to their level. And it's a sense of entitlement that ironically is prescribed by men, because you have told boys that this is what it's supposed to look like.
yeah,
Now, when they see their lives do not mirror that, they panic and they freak out and they get very, very angry. And then it becomes a huge societal issue because you take it out on all of us and then it turns into violence.
yeah. Diana,
Hello, Themis. Hello, everybody.
hello.
I have to
Everyone,
give you a compliment because I got a compliment in the chat. So before I accept it, I have to give you one. So, Themis, you look really great today.
oh, thank you. I was just about to point out that everyone is talking about your glasses in the chat. So,
Thank
a
you.
period. They love it.
Awesome. Thank you for facilitating this conversation. There's a part which you were saying, Dahlia, that I definitely agree with on how men are socialized to believe that they need to have resources or some type of access to resource to find their manhood. However, I think the opposite is happening in the Black community. I feel more so it's not.
Wait,
I mean,
wait. No, pause, pause. Let's step back. Let's step back. Because yes, but like it's such an interesting thing. Whenever we talk about men and women, I don't think we can ever do it generally because the inverse tends to happen in the black community. Like people are like, women are hypergamous. Like, I mean, except in the black community, men are taught to provide. Except in the black community, you know what I mean? Like it's never. It's such an interesting thing. I had to pause and underscore it, but go ahead.
no, and I just think collectively it's not the same program because it's it's such a nuanced situation. But I just looking over, it's more so the roles are definitely reversed because it's more so protect the man, protect, him. And then the women or the girls, children are put in the forefront to be that shield of protection. So getting an education to protect yourself as a woman so you can have access to resources. So it's just that looking at how men collectively are socialized, but then the nuances that happens when we look specifically at the Black community, it is an inverse that takes place. So I think that I think that causes anger in a lot of men who are not able to strive to the ideals of manhood, whether they're not able to have the resources or because they don't believe they can have access to it. So therefore, it's a lot of push on Black women, particularly to be, independent women. Independent. I spelled that wrong, but that's me. It's just that's been the consistent narrative. So I feel now we're seeing how these inversions have now exasperated the gender war, because the gender war was always happening, but I think it's exasperated even more. And now we're seeing more anger and up flares from
I
all
mean,
communities for men.
it would heighten whatever is happening in the quote unquote gender war, which I don't like that framing, but I'll go with it. The reason is now women aren't afraid to speak up because if you speak up as a woman, and it's interesting because, like, I don't think Black women were ever being provided for by, like, Black men were ever providing for Black women on a massive scale in America. Like Black women have always been sort of in the labor market, even when Black men couldn't because of domestic work and all of that. So I mean, it's interesting because we are on par now with other communities in terms of, well, I'm going to pull that back. Pull that back for 2 seconds. Let me say instead, Black women are on par to passing Black men in terms of income, right? Now, this is not typical. Like, we talked about how well Black women were doing in comparison to Black men, but like Black men have always had more income than Black men. Now the average Black woman still was out earning, but on like a national level, when the numbers are crunched and it was pushed out, Black men were still making $2,000 more than Black women, at least in the overall number for average income. In the next 5 years, that's not going to be the case if the trend continues the way it's going, right? I mean, what does that say about the community? They're calling it a matriarchy now, but at that point, there will be no argument that it is a matriarchy. Like the women are now the providers. Like
So
when,
just to confirm, as of right now, Black men they're still leading it, but like a slight edge when it
yeah,
comes to
yeah,
income level.
it's the
Okay,
smallest between any group gender, like any
that's
gender.
interesting.
Not only that, but if you do it on average income per job or field, women come out ahead in certain areas, right? This is
Yeah.
not the case in other communities. And I think the conversation shouldn't be about how we get women to earn less, obviously. It's how we get ourselves to earn more. And I think, I mean,
Hmm.
we're just in a bad place. And if ego is a problem now, if ego is a driving force that's animating how we show up, Black men show up on the internet, and like in schools and just in terms of self actualization and understanding of self, if our egos are tied to manhood in that way, we have a rude awakening. Like we have a rude awakening. We are going to be face to face with women who are doing better in every way than we are as part of a community. And we are
Well,
going to be face to
Enos,
face with that being the only group that's doing that.
well, this is interesting that you say that because there's a viral video that's been going out today. I guess it's a sermon from Bishop T.D. Jakes where he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing, women are being men. And he named out these different traits of like masculinity that is not very positive. And he's saying that women, y'all need to pretty much, long story short, you need to pretty much lessen yourself so that he can lead. How can he lead you if you have your degree, if you can pay your own house note, if you how is he supposed to lead you? You need to create space for him to lead. And
Like you need.
so
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, so we have another layer of programming coming from the religious leaders that's saying these things to continue
My
that
pastor.
conversation. And it's, oh goodness, it frustrates me because I can see how that's going to really, really get worse in amongst our community if you're telling the women to slow down, don't accomplish, don't fully self-actualize. The only way a man could be a man is if you lessen yourself so that he can come in and headship over you. And so I feel this trend is just going to get worse. And I really hope that we as people can
I mean,
start.
the trend can get as
It's
bad as it wants. The reality is, if you're going to sit there and beg people to step down so you can feel good, no one is going to do that. Like, no, my frustration, by the way, with the manosphere, and yes, this is part of the video, my frustration with the manosphere is that it is the attempt to diminish women so that men feel good about themselves. Like, what? Like, how does that work on a community level? Like, I get how it works for your ego, which it
Mhm.
actually doesn't work for your ego. If someone is pretending that they are inadequate and you know they're pretending they're inadequate so you can feel good, I promise that will feel worse than them being actually inadequate in comparison to you.
See, this
Like,
is very
no.
consistent though with human psychology because What's happening right now is if we see those statistics that you just threw out there, and if we see that through to its logical conclusion, and Black men do what they want, which is divest and go to other communities, those communities as a whole are doing better than us. So if Black women are about to outpace you, then when if you were to switch over to the Asian community or the white community and Hispanic community, they're about to be outpacing us too. You're going to be 3x, 4x, 5x times behind them. So if you can catch up with us, what makes you think you'll be catching up with the other communities? So they're not thinking about that, and that's just short term. And then long term, I think the issue is that they have gotten very comfortable because we Black women have made them very comfortable. It's easy for them to just kind of rest in their masculinity because we've essentially done all the work, and that's been the case since the community leaders got assassinated in the 60s. I think maybe that freaked them out. And it's like, okay, I don't want to be in the front anymore. So let me go ahead and rest. And now um, Black women are on pace to outstrip them on multiple levels. And I think you have a point when you say that we need to just kind of like stand down and let them feel the pain, because people in general will only change if they're uncomfortable. If they're made to feel uncomfortable, if they sit in some pain, that's when the change comes, not when they're content and comfortable.
I mean, if slave, let me not. I feel like we're in pain currently, and I don't know how much more. I mean, I agree with you, right, but like diamonds could either be created or it just be shattered, right? Like it's not. I don't know. Maybe they've we have. I'm not going to say that. Black
I'm
women
not that
answering these questions.
optimistic.
Yeah. Black women answering these questions for ourselves over time. Who are you? What do you want? Who is your competition? Do you think in or out of the box? My answer to 3 and 4: I have no competition and I have no box. Period. Um, they pressure only women to prioritize families and get men about single mothers. Math, not math. No, yeah. I mean, the socialization of the genders are literally diametrically opposed. So I don't understand why why we do that. Um, anyway, thank you both.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna add some more people because the back just got filled up. Bye.
Bye.
Go ahead. I think you said oh word. Oh word. All right. Oh, hello. You're muted. Oh, we can't hear you. Nope, can't hear you. All right, go and come back. It's open, so you can come back. Ruled by Venus. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, hey Venus, thanks for letting me up.
No,
Really
thank
quick.
you for coming.
So, in reference to the two videos, I do think they handled rejection the same way.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna explain why. They both decided to become successful to fight against feeling rejected. I think the only
No,
difference.
no, wait. One of them didn't. One of them actually. Oh, I don't know what happened. One of them, the guy didn't accept the guy. In terms of his rejection, he said he wanted to become degenerate, essentially.
No, you
I mean,
damn. You kind of.
he
I'm
ultimately
sorry. Go ahead.
became he ultimately became successful through sports, I think. But no, I maybe I was mistaken. But go ahead. Maybe.
Okay, maybe no, you're right. Maybe you'll understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I think in their minds, right? Like we both are deciding to become successful in order to fight against feeling rejected. I think the only difference is what they both perceived as success. In his mind, success is proximity to whiteness. In her mind, success is becoming as accomplished as she can. So I think they both had the same intent. I just think the difference was what they both perceived as success. Does that make sense?
Oh, gotcha. I think you're talking about in the long term. What happened was in the moment they were being rejected, she goes and becomes a perfectionist. He goes and started selling drugs.
I don't believe him, by the way, but let's go with
Oh
it.
yeah.
I don't. I
I don't
don't.
believe it either.
I don't. I think you nailed it perfectly. I never heard anyone put it that way when you said that people who say I talk like a white person are people who want people to say that when no one's actually saying it.
Like no, there's no. Maybe there are, but I can't imagine anyone hearing this man and say, "Oh, you talk white." But sure, sure, go with that.
It's like sidebar real quick. I feel like there are black people who are like desperately wanting to associate with whiteness because like I said earlier, in their mind, that is literally what success looks like to them. And they won't just come out with it. So we got to hear all these stories about how it's our fault that you want to be over there not knowing who you are, having an identity crisis. But anyway,
Oh, oh no, 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 no. But no more tangent. But I have to say, I was going to start this video being real messy, where this bisexual guy was saying black women were the reason down low men were down low because black women were the most homophobic. And I literally was gonna start, and I was like, you know what? Let me not, because everyone, like, I didn't even know they were anti. You guys can drag me for this. I didn't realize that like in the gay community there was so much, like the black gay community, there was so much anti-black women rhetoric. Like I didn't know this. So
oh, it's
like
bad. It's
like
really bad. At this point, everybody hates black women. Like we need our own island to
no, I
protect
mean
ourselves.
the way they show up in the comments are good here, except one person. There's only one guy here that's like very obviously against black women, that's like overtly gay, or he, I think he said it. So I'm looking at my comments and I'm like, oh, so gay men are on board. No, apparently not. Go ahead, sorry, don't go on that tangent, but go on.
Please, I wanted to. Okay, I'm gonna stick to the point. So, to address your other point about women needing to rest, I absolutely agree. I just think the issue is when we do, who's going to pick up the slack, right? A lot of us overwork ourselves not because we want to, but because we have to. And this is an idea I've been wrestling with lately, right? Because like inflation is going up, there's talks of a recession, but whose income went up, right? So it's like, okay, how can we creatively figure out ways to increase income without trading our time for money? That's just something I've been kind of wrestling with because um I think other women should start thinking about that. I'm not like a financial person, but I can't give advice, but I think that's a good suggestion. Like because inflation is about to be like 10%, and then unless your boss is paying you more, then that's a problem for you, right? So it's like even if we want to rest, which a lot of us we really do need to, the men aren't really providing like that, and with the inflation, it's like how, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, we're gonna get into a video where a man is sending a woman back to work. So we're about to get into that, and the hypocrisy just general in the manosphere. But someone just said black gay men are still black men, but the violence against black, gay, and trans people are coming from mostly black men in the black community. So like if you're gonna say the most homophobic, like black women are the last thing on my mind in that hierarchy. So like it doesn't make sense. But as I watch his video, it sounds like he want women to want him, and they're like, absolutely not. And that's why he's mad. So he's thinking homophobia is a rejection of him sexually, not like actually being killed. So don't know how I don't know how you scaled that properly, but I sorry, it's not funny. It just doesn't make any sense. But I appreciate you. Thank you. I didn't have to ring the bell because I paused your time. You can have a final statement if you would like.
Oh, that was pretty much my point. I think we all do need to rest, but I just think we got to get creative on how to keep the income coming in without like physically hurting ourselves, overworking ourselves. And thank you for letting me up.
Thank you. Have a good one. Someone said, but straight black men kill each other in large numbers too, and they still came for. Gotcha, gotcha. Can I say I think she decides if she is helpful, she can't be rejected. He decides that no one rejects whiteness, and he can use his idea of whiteness to cushion himself. Well, yeah, he is using his idea of whiteness right now. Go ahead. Oh, concern. Go ahead.
Hey, so I wanted to circle back because, first of all, my only note to pinpoint is that Black women are also the avatar that most of the Black gay community is copying. A lot of Black men come up off of making fun of Black women, so it's so insidious in so many ways. You could be gay, straight. Martin, Eddie Murphy, who I think you look nothing like, and I don't appreciate their association.
Period. Thank
I
you.
A lot of them end up basically pointing the joke of Black women. They're all obsessed with us, but they use us in different ways. But kind of back to the point on Black women and rest, I wanted to add too that I this is where divestment intersects. Do we want a Black community more than we want healthy mindsets? Because are we going to really be out here? And this is the actual question I want to pose. Like, Black men don't seem like they care about a Black future. They deliberately go out of their way to eliminate their own Blackness every time they get there, both genetically as well as socially, and to separate themselves. I think Black women, as a community, we have to wrestle with the idea of, are we okay with a future that is not Black? That we still have a legacy, but it's not a Black legacy, because we literally cannot do it alone. And I'm coming up against this wall, and I'd be curious to hear what other women think.
I actually think that's an interesting discussion. I won't give my thoughts on it. I think I started on another live stream. But yeah, I appreciate that concern, actually. Cheryl?
First of all, thank you. I love what you young people are talking about and discussing. And speaking on that, I thought about the video that I heard about TD Jakes and women having to step back. Let me offer a little perspective. I'm a 51-year-old woman, and I have been through a lot. And let me say this, if I had not invested in myself financially, working hard and saving my money and making investments, I would not have the resources that I need now. The point being, you're going to need those resources and bring those resources into your marriage or whether you stay single. And I think when I think of the Black community, I'm really thinking more about Black women and how we're investing in ourselves and taking your rest along the way. Rest does not equate you totally dropping the ball and not working at all, but rest means that you're not so invested in your community that you're sacrificing your mental state and your body. It's taken me a long time to get to this point, and I'm telling you, people, I am bone weary. And it's just a fact of life. You can exercise, you can take care of yourself, which that's your due diligence. You only get one body, but there is a leak in your roof as you get older. And every day I get older, I'm shocked by what hurts. And I'm so comforted by the fact that I do have some resources. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm so glad I invested in myself. And I just want to tell young ladies and young men who are willing, invest in yourself. It's okay to work. I was so outdone by what TD Jakes said. I'm like, instead of him as a man telling other men to rise up and take their place.
Wait, is this the video? Wait, is this the video?
Yes, yes. It was the most ungodly, out of line, unbiblical thing in the world that he
Was it
stood there and
unbiblical?
said.
Was it unbiblical? I don't know, I'm asking.
Well, it says that a man that doesn't take care of his children is less than an infidel. That
So
means you have to stand up. That means you have to have some resources. A man is supposed to love his wife as God loves the church. That's a powerful thing. God is a provider. If you are of the Christian belief, you believe and stand in the fact that God is a provider. And if God is loving the church, hello, providing for the church, a
what if
man is
the
supposed
man
to
wait,
provide
wait,
for his wife.
I'm
Oh, I
always
apologize.
no, please. You're doing great, actually. I could listen to you talk all day. Um, but when it comes to a woman stepping back and letting the man lead, isn't that like on par with the like Christian principles?
Yeah, but does she have to sit there and be like destitute and waiting
Oh,
on this man to,
I look.
do, do I know where you're coming from. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, but it's like, do young women, do women have to sit there in poverty in order for, well, we're not doing anything. We sitting back, we're letting you be the men. And then on the next side of the album, I'm so old, I'm dating myself by saying that. On the next side of the album, you're saying, what are you bringing to the table? So either way, I'm encouraging young women, young men, whoever is in the sound of my voice, work, get your money, have multiple streams of income. That young lady that mentioned that, she's dead right. With inflation going up like it is, I've seen so much. And I have lived a life where I have sat back and have allowed for certain men in my life to take the lead. And I was literally left in the dust. Like I built them up, I poured into their life. And as Cynthia G says, I spoke life into them. I crack up every time she says that. Anyway, every time that girl says that, I crack up. You speak life into 'em. No, but anyway, long story, even longer. Get your money together. It's okay. Get your education. You're not going to diminish yourself or diminish. d- Get your education. Do what you have to do. Now, I did not get a college degree, but I bet your bottom dollar, if I had the sense I had now, I would have went on ahead and got my college degree, traveled, lived overseas. There are things that bind us in a life of poverty, and we've become the face of struggle, and that's the lie we have to dispel. And the best revenge you can have is to live a good life. And I just wanted to share that. I don't want to take up your time, but I'm so proud of you all and how you think. I've been like stalking y'all, just listening, and I'm like, wow, these young people are on the ball. I just pray for you all and pray that God hold them up, because there's a groundswell coming here, and you all may not be able to see it, but I do. And I'm very, 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 very proud of you all and the work you're doing, Themis. And I love your shadiness. I be cracking up over here. I'm like, Lord, let me go
Yes,
to bed because
shady.
I
I'm
gotta
not
go to work anyway.
shady.
I can't be playing with these children tonight.
I'm
But
not
I'm
shady. I'm
uh,
kidding. No,
oh,
I
oh,
am.
oh, honey, I'm right down there with you, because it's with truth. You're speaking truth. And I just want to encourage you all. You're on the right track. Keep on the right path. I'm telling you, looking back at my life, I wish I had invested more into my education and just more into my finances and finding other streams of income. Even though inflation is coming, this is a wonderful time to be young and alive. Y'all got options, utilize them. Hold your head up, keep going straight. You're on the right track. And this imposter syndrome, the first dude, the video you showed, oh my God, I'm like, he hates himself. Just go on ahead and say you want to be a white man, honey, sugar. Go on. Eh,
Not honey, sugar.
yeah, just go on ahead. Go on ahead and say that's what you want to
Go
be. It's okay.
ahead. I
Yeah.
love it.
But anyway, y'all have a good night, and I'm very proud of you again. And take care. And thank you for allowing me to come up, Themis. I'm
It
very
is
grateful.
refreshing. I appreciate your voice so, so much. Like, thank you. If
All
black
right,
men are
darling.
married, have a good one.
Good night.
Good night. If black men are marrying and dating out, black women have no choice but to finally let them go. The better question is, why are black women convinced that martyrdom of themselves and their children is a badge of honor? Because that's what we are told in the Bible. And by we, I think the community, but the only group I think that internalize that is black women. I think there is a sense that struggling somehow means that you are being a good Christian person. I don't know. I actually do think Christianity. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Wait,
Um,
no, don't leave it alone.
I'm
Wait,
not.
don't leave it alone. What do you
I'm
mean?
absolutely. I'm absolutely gonna leave that alone. The thing is, I am a Christian. I just I have a lot of problems.
We can talk about men being good Christians at home and then doing their dirt in the background. Okay, like it's a norm.
I I don't think any other human being should have so much power and control over another as sort of expressed biblically. And so, like, I have my own faith, but it's the ways in which the Bible is being used to sort of diminish womanhood. I don't find it appropriate. And I am not a feminist, but like I don't think you should have to lower yourself for anyone. And I don't think if people can't rise to the occasion, then they just can't meet the expectation standards that you have. So bye.
Would it be weird if I push back on it a little bit, Femus, that I think the black community actually is in sore need of feminism, though not necessarily the white woman feminist
Oh yeah.
version?
Oh, wait. No, I wouldn't. If I could tell all the black men to be anything, I would tell them to be feminists.
Okay.
Because if women are doing the work, the least you can do is support. Because at this point,
Yeah. I was looking at Pew Research. So I feel like the trend that you're mentioning with black men is actually happening with all men. It's just hitting black men faster. Because it seems like for every other racial group, the kind of gender gap is closing. It seems to, however, be closing a lot faster with black men. Um,
yes.
so I think this is a problem that every single other racial group is going to
No,
have to
I
deal
don't
with.
think wait. I think if you look at the sort of the specific career field for men and women, you would see that there is no distinction being made or no closing of the gap happening. Women generally are going to school more than men in today's society, just as a general matter,
Yeah.
right? Which leads to higher earning for these women when they
Mhm.
graduate. However, the group, and this is why it's closing so quickly for Black men, is the least likely to go to school, being us, and get
Mhm.
an education, which on the back end is going to severely reduce our income. So while it is true that the gap is closing as a sort of general matter, as the
Mhm.
feminists are screaming outside, talking about the wage gap for men and women, while it is closing at a rate that is really troubling for the Black community, one. But two, it means that one group is increasing their income where the other group is essentially, not fully, but essentially stagnant, right?
Mm.
So even if we're looking at the wage gap, everyone is increasing, but the women are like catching up ish on the men. In the
Yeah.
Black community, it feels like the men are kind of stuck. Like obviously they're like increasing a little, but the women are like coming up on them. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
like not even a comparison. Um, if that happens, that's not an issue if Black men we are willing to be like, okay, well, we need to dig in and work, because the rate at which Black women are increasing their income should be what the community generally is doing to catch up to other communities.
Of course. Does it ever worry you? I think one thing that I fear, however, I do think it's a good thing that black women are like increasing not just their wages but their status in their class and being able to like crawl out of poverty. What I fear sometimes though is that I think there was like another study that says that when women enter a field in large numbers, for some reason that field gets devalued. That's something that I fear.
When women enter field in large number, that field gets devalued. If the
Hmm.
decision makers are, look, we're in a patriarchy. And what that means in my mind, but I can prove that, but I don't want to argue it. So let's just use my understanding of the world. We're in a patriarchy. That means men should have more access than women, and men do have more access than women. Men make the rules, men implement the rules, men execute and interpret everything that you have the three branches of government, men, right? Great, fine, I don't care. When you say an area is devalued, the reason it's devalued is because of men's attempt to devalue women input in certain areas. Now, if women become the primary, the CEOs and of different companies and start deciding who to trade with and where they need to buy things from, maybe, I'm not saying it will happen, but maybe these other women will start seeing these women as, I don't know, impressive and not devalue
Oh,
them. So,
real quick, when I mean devalued, I don't mean like in terms of like their quality or their character, but the field itself, for some reason, people justify
no, that's,
paying them less.
no, that's what I'm saying. And so that's where we have to hopefully get more people. And to be fair, women feed into like misogyny and misogyny, like
Of course.
every day, right?
Yeah.
But to the extent we have men and women who are willing to see the value in women and their contribution and engage in that way, I think we have a good setup. But even if true, and they're going to be devalued and paid less, does that then mean they shouldn't engage? And obviously, the
No,
answer to that is
no, no,
no.
no. No, of course not. We should
Yeah.
probably change the culture for that. I think one is like the kind of archaic study I read that like as women were entering the education field, one of the justifications for even letting women into that field was that they can justify paying educators less. That's one of those things that I fear. And so I would fear that like women are getting like degrees, but at the same time they're getting debt only to like
I
come
mean,
to
you don't
expect
have to
wages
fear
that
that.
don't show up.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to fear that. Everyone who gets degree generally is getting that. So, I mean, that's a fact. Like, I have, well, I have debt. No, I don't. I mean, my assets are whatever. It doesn't, I don't understand, and I don't think this is you, so I'm not going to say it's you, but like people keep scaring people away from school because of debt. And I do actually think the American school system is horrid in that there is no way education should be this expensive. Like, absolutely no way.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you getting debt to ultimately do better is something that you should prevent you from getting an education. Like ever. Like that doesn't make sense to me. We
Yeah,
know the research. Just don't, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, of course. I just think that like sometimes job opportunities are not there. So I think like after the 2008 crash, people have said like that was the hardest group of graduate that were hit. They were expecting to have jobs after 2008, didn't find them, and then like I guess fatigue sets in, and then they've had a hard time recuperating from that effect. So I could imagine that'd be a problem for a bunch of people. Just be
I
wary
mean,
of when you enter the job market.
yeah, true, but like it's not gonna stop anyone from going to school. Like
Mhm.
you are gonna go to school and you're gonna go get a job. And like
Of course.
even if there's a potential crash, I promise the people with education are going to fare better than those without.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, worst thing is to be only a high school graduate in like a bad economy.
Yeah, like yeah. So I don't. Again, not saying this is you, but there is a push to say, "Well, your degree doesn't matter, and you're gonna have debt." And it's like, okay, cool. And you're gonna be unemployed. The amount of people who are unemployed, I can guarantee you, is the people without undergrad degree or high school education are
Mhm.
probably more prone, definitely more prone to unemployment and
Mhm.
underemployment than those with a degree. So that literally makes no sense. The argument doesn't make sense in any reality unless we're in the upside down. Like, yeah.
One other thing that I did find, I think somebody else had commented on it. Um, Men's reaction. She was talking about the Uvalde shooting, and she was saying it's like, "Oh, this is the first time that I've seen like a Hispanic man do a mass shooting." And I was reading a book by David King's about like conflict in Sierra Leone, and it started to hit me as like part of like that kind of male entitlement, but specifically, I guess, for Black men in this case, is like the once poverty sets in, once you have lack of option, it's like morality goes out the window, and you feel justified to do whatever you want, and it doesn't matter as long as you win. I think
Do
this
you
is like a
think do you think in your estimation is poverty to be blamed for um how people are acting?
no. I think entitlement is to be blamed for why people are acting.
All right.
Um, sometimes you can be poor for unjustified reasons. Sometimes you can be poor for justified reason, like whether you have like a criminal history or because of your bad behavior or because of mismanagement or whatever, right? But it seems like
It's funny. The sort of black male empowerment part of me is coming out now. I'm kidding. No, it's not. But I do actually find it how weird that one of the pillars of prison is obviously rehabilitation, but there's punishment, obviously. So I don't actually like that when people re-enter society, that they can't get jobs because or vote. Let's use voting because I feel like then you're saying the punishment there is not enough, and that's fine if you're willing to extend that for the wrong that you have done in society, that your punishment extend beyond prison. And I think that's something that should be embedded in the articulation during a trial or whatever. But to say you re-enter society, but we're going to put this and that up, means that you probably shouldn't be re-entering society if they don't feel like you've been rehabilitated.
I mean, I work at political canvassing, and like that's a lot of the problems where I'll feel like I have like an okay or pretty good candidate, and then their record shows up, and we're like, okay, you had like this petty property theft thing from like 12 years ago, but I cannot let you canvass in an area with homeowners because just the 1% risk that it happens again, like we're just gonna look like idiots. Like we can't even risk that. So that's kind of been a lot. But more so to what I was saying is like it's like I don't know how to deal with that. Like if the rules aren't working for you, why would you follow the rules? Like, does that make sense?
For whom?
For anybody who's in an impoverished situation, but I guess specifically for black men in that state, right? Because like I feel like I
I
hear
don't
this a lot.
I'm trying to understand the implication of your question, and more directly your question. I are you what rule? Oh, I don't under. Where do you stand on what black men should do? Let's try that. Last question, because there's a bunch of people. Well, they
Sure,
left. Only Truth Teller and Tony is it back there. Let me add them.
sure. I guess my question is, um how do you fight the violence that is happening to black women when they feel like society has already left them behind and there's no reason to like even have like some sort of decorum or some sort of restraint or anything like that? I don't know how to tell people that. I guess that was my question. I don't know if you have an answer.
I don't understand your question still. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Um, I guess somebody else could probably take it better than me. I can cede my ground if nobody else has anything else to say.
No. I want to understand. You said, how do we? I don't understand the question.
Sure. Like a lot of the problems that I have is that like I think I've been talking to other black men about this issue and like they'll listen to it and dismiss it and the obvious excuses they say it's because of poverty or whatever. Um, and then to me it never felt like just because you're poor does not mean like you allow violence, you allow misogyny, you allow that you to hurt women. I think if anything like that should give you reasons to like build up together, but it doesn't seem like people understand that there's a lot of excuses. It's like poverty. If they weren't poor, they'd be more moral, upstanding character. And I don't know how to like untangle that narrative. It seems people are very resistant or very quick to use poverty as an excuse.
Can I add to that?
Before you
Sure.
go, so let me understand. The people are you weaponizing poverty to sort of explain away degeneracy,
Yes.
and you're asking how do you untangle that?
Yeah. I understand that you might not have the answer, but yeah, that's the
I
feeling that I
definitely
get.
do
I don't
not
know how to fight that.
I do not have the answer, but it looks like DJ does.
Well, more of an observation than an answer. I feel like you're interacting with people who simply do not want to improve. You're describing somebody who would rather make excuses than to actually improve the situation that they're in. And so I know it's pretty harsh to say, but I think those are the people that you just have to let go and find the people who actually want to improve and help them.
Mm. Um, yeah, I suppose that's true, but it's not like these are like very impoverished people. These are college educated people who just
Oh,
kind of like
that's even sadder then.
yeah, they kind of like mix excuses for everybody else, or they feel this reflex to defend.
Oh, I think there is a level of condescension that happens, or there's a condescending approach by specifically upper class liberals that I absolutely hate. It is this idea that those people over there cannot do anything for themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and they
It,
no, it is ridiculous. I think it's
yeah,
really
it's
terrible.
not even liberal, but it's also like educated black people. It's like, oh, like if I'm
No,
talking to older educated
no, no,
black men, they
no.
feel the need to defend.
I promise you, you're not going to find a conservative worth anything who would agree with that statement. I
Mm.
promise you that. It is a very, very specifically liberal
Liberal.
viewpoint.
Hmm.
You know,
And I'm
one
not
thing.
against liberalism, by the way. I'm just saying, or liberal, sorry, not liberalism. Um, but it's a very liberal view. Go ahead, DJ. You were answering, but you can come up with your own points now.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, I'm very happy to be here. Finally made it to a live.
Yay.
But no, just to respond to what was just said, man, okay, it'll come back to me later. But I had a few things. I wrote it down because, I'm not trying to get the bell. So let me run through it real quick and then bring it back to what we're talking about now. Just a few observations I had watching that guy's TED talk. For one thing, I found it kind of strange. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but isn't it always that when they're on the stage, it's always, I was the top of my class or I was the best on my team? It's okay to be average. Like, it's all right. Majority of us are. You don't have to embellish just to prove your point. But for another thing, I think what really annoyed me is, for all the reasons that we already discussed, clearly he just wanted the thug life. Like, that's that's very clear. Especially because I'm speaking from somebody who went to a school with 5,000 students in the Bronx, in the hood. It was a dumping ground for all the kids that been in and out of juvenile centers and things like that. It was a dumping ground for all the kids nobody wanted. But yet I was in the honors program with only 200 or 300 people. And within that, I was in the AP program with only 100 people. And I say all that just to say, if he really valued his education, he could have absolutely found other kids who value their education as well. It is a cop out to imply that every person in your school was just about that thug life too and cared about all the things they shouldn't have cared about, and so you ended up selling drugs. Like, where's the connection here?
You want to know, pause. Like, you want to know what I think?
Facts.
I'm gonna just say this now. In my opinion, I don't know his life. He might be telling the truth, but let me say what I think happened. I think he had like he did some really bad things as a child, and this is how he's going to wrap that story up into why he did that bad things. He is willing to throw the entire black community under the bus to vindicate himself. That is him, and he's saying, "Now I act white." So it is what that is what he's trying to do, in my opinion. Continue.
No. I completely agree with that. And speaking on that about throwing away the entire black community, he definitely did that, because you're saying, "Hey guys, all the blacks is on the streets, but all the whites are in the boardroom." Like,
Yep.
excuse me, I've been in multiple boardrooms, and I don't stay on the streets. So what are you talking about?
And I mean, it's not to say there isn't, like, obviously, like, the issues. It is my problem isn't him pointing out issues in the black community. By the way, just want to, not, you didn't say anything. I'm just talking to the chat. Mine is a very specific way in which he decides that he's going to align with whiteness, not being better spoken, not being more academically inclined and care about academic rigor. None of that is the association of all of that with whiteness was what he did for himself. He is saying, "I am acting white." Like, he's literally saying, "I am acting white." That is my problem with it, because it's what you're doing is not acting white.
Yeah, and which makes him just as bad as the people who supposedly said that to him.
Yep.
Because you should be able to say, especially on a stage like a TED Talk, that, I'm not speaking white. I'm just using proper English, and I'm not as comfortable speaking African American vernacular, for example. There's nothing wrong with that. But to say that you're acting white, you're associating using proper English with a color. Like, please make that make sense. Please.
Yep.
Yep.
No. And so to bring it back to like what we were just talking about, something that was said a little bit a while ago, it just made me want to write down that I personally, I'm a woman, but it is my perspective that I feel like only a real man could want, not only appreciate, but prefer a woman that he knows doesn't need him. I think what made me start thinking about this was the TD Jakes thing. Is like, why do you want somebody to need you? Why do you want them to only be with you because you benefit them from a financial perspective or protection?
Because you can then control them.
Yeah.
Oh, true. So, but I'm thinking like that comes with time, right? But I feel like in the moment when she first starts committing to you, it kind of feeds your ego. And so my thing is, what happens if she gets a promotion? Are you going to start wearing her panties? Like, are you going to feel emasculated because she's, she no longer needs you anymore? I feel like that's clearly not love, right? It is a matter of wanting to control somebody, because you should want a woman to have options and she still chooses you.
Yeah.
Period.
Can I
Wait.
speak on that real quick?
Not no. We're gonna go around and then we can come back to you.
Okay.
TD Jakes want black women to step back, but I'm sure it's black women with their money and their degrees funding his lifestyle. I mean, that just sounds to me like black women probably should divest from his church, but I'm pretty sure that's not the message anyone else is going to get. Actually, you can respond quickly to her so that we can move on because I don't want to have to come back. So, yeah.
Sure. So the one thing I was going to comment is like these men are like assuming that they're going to be healthy like for the rest of their lives. Like the number, just in my job, the number of men who I hear of like have Parkinson's or some like stroke or something, and not even in like their late 60s, but they're like 30s and 40s, right? Whose wives have to take care of them. It's like, why would you cripple your partner? You're like only hurting yourself. Even if you were like just a pure like rationalist, like it only makes you worse. It doesn't make you better.
It really doesn't at all, actually. Thank you. Fall's coming.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. So I just wanted to like talk about the wage gap, and to your point about the guy, about how no one ever he just wanted someone to tell him that he like spoke white. I grew up in the west side of Chicago. The only person who ever told me that I spoke white were children. And the way they phrased it was that, oh, I like your accent. And I used to swear, because my mom is originally from Mississippi, that that's what they meant, that some of the words that I was saying were like coming out. And I used to like correct them, like, no, I'm just speaking English. Like, you'll get there, stay in school, whatever. And that's it. Or it was literally black men that stood on the corner and embraced the language of a toddler. So it's like, yeah, of course I will sound white to you. Like, did you finish school? So getting into the wage gap. So I want to say, like, this was actually reminded me of a video that Cynthia played, where there was a white woman who basically stated that white men didn't care that black men were making white women single mother because they had a plan for it. And then here comes Roe versus Wade, and then the tab you posted on your community about child payment starting at contraception. And I was like, oh, they getting them. Like, white men are like, listen, you want to come over? You want to play in these streets? We about to dig into your pockets. So I feel like, but in that video, she also
No. It's dig into your pockets. No, it's going to. A lot of us are going to go to prison.
Man, that sounds like, and that brought me back to Deanne's point about how she mentioned that Uncle Sam is coming for black men and they just don't know it. And this was like, yes, like I feel it, because in that same video, the white woman addressed the fact that when it's a black woman in any other interracial relationships, white men and other races of men know that they're going to fight that woman for that child. That is a family, period. They understand that. So I'm like, what if, and then there was this whole thing before COVID happened, where the New York Times had this entire like article or like tribute to babies, the business with babies and the birth defects of babies. And on the cover, it was like a white baby and he had all these birth defects. And in the comment section, there were so many white people talking about how to get rid of this and how basically to fix it. So I'm like, what if this was a trap? Like, the whole thing to me just sounds like now it's not even, to your point about the wage gap, white men are going to take care of white men. They're not going to allow the gap, I feel like, between white men and white women to get so large that they won't be able to step up. And as we already know, Asian men, at least in America, already make more than white men. And Asian men are now determining to run the continent, regardless of what black men are saying. Actions speak louder than words, and what they're doing, Asians, the Chinese are doing in Africa, says volumes. So they're good. But all of this basically just means for black women, I honestly believe this was like white men and Asian men's way of basically saying, now we're not giving you a choice. Choose something other than them. Because someone made it a point, or at least I think it was Paris Milan video, about how black men were whining about the drafts and how they were breeding themselves out. And on her video, she made it a point of stating how black men kept talking about how they're divesting and how they're doing this and they're whining. But how do you think black children come into this world? Via a black woman. So now that you want to play and then you want to call foul when you see that, hey, these children don't look like you when they come out of their white mothers, or your grandkids aren't going to look like you since you spent their entire lives devaluing black women and basically having this negative attitude. Why would you think that all of a sudden your grandson would turn around and value a black woman when you spent his...
What happened?
Wait, who was speaking?
Falls Coming was speaking. I think her
Oh.
thing dropped off. She's not on here anymore.
I do that all the time. I accidentally clicked the can't leave button.
Wait, go ahead, Truth Teller. I'm gonna
Okay.
play the TD Jake thing.
Yeah,
but
please do, because I need to. Anyway. Thank you for having me on. I'm so mad I missed the one last week about the church and patriarchy or whatnot. It was a crazy ass week for work. I was working straight through the video, and by the time I came on, you left. So yeah, that was on that. But I will say to you, just to say, in looking back at the text, you're right. Eve was
period. I'm kidding. I don't know. What am I right about?
Eve was punished more.
All right.
In that passage. I tried to see if there was any like commentary that delved into that, but as I said, that was not the primary focus by a lot of theologians in terms of like the exegesis on the passage. But regarding this guy and the woman, it seems to me that, and I've observed it, and everyone has already pretty much touched on it, that there's a different socialization that goes on with black men than compared to black women, which is, and maybe that can be attributed, I don't even know though, because I was going to say maybe they can be attributed to patriarchy, but not really, because then white men would act in a similar manner, and they tend not to. But
no, but if one, maybe patriarchy shows up.
Yeah, because
white men do act in a similar manner. It's just that it's not advantageous for them to act in that manner. So the people higher up are controlling the younger ones, are controlling the weaker ones.
Wait, before we get there, before we get there, I think Truth Teller pointed something out that's like kind of nice to really think about, but I think there could be an argument that because white men, in terms of patriarchy, it is a white patriarchy
system,
in that.
yes.
Yeah, so like they can meet the standard of the
Yes.
requirements in a patriarchy, where maybe patriarchy shows up different for black men because we cannot meet in full the standard.
Yeah, because it's about like masculinity, performing masculinity, and also embodying masculinity. It's like that the dynamic and distinction between those two. And I remember doing a politics of sexuality class where we discussed that, and I remember like thinking about it and the way in which it shows up for black men, which is the fact that because generally speaking, at least from what I can tell, and I don't know because I don't live in America, so I don't know, what it really looks like on the ground, but men, because the society is set up where men ought to be providers, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing in terms of someone said about the Uvalde shooting, and like and you were saying too, if you're your worth is determined by how much you're able to produce, and esteem is different. Like, I think that it's two separate things going on. You have an inherent value. All people have inherent value by virtue of our existence and being able to experience this life. So whether or not you are super smart, or whether you're fully physically able and like what have you to contribute to like the capitalist system, your life has value. And then beyond that, I do think that it's incumbent upon all of us, in order to live, in order to continue to live, we have to be able to provide for ourselves somehow. So I don't think it's an unreasonable expectation. I don't think it's a negative thing of the patriarchy to expect men to produce. Do you understand what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it was not that we should somehow then not expect men to produce in order to like solve for the patriarchy. No, it's the fact that, understanding that not all men, because it's impossible by virtue of just the nature of things, right? Like the fittest will survive. Like not everybody is going to be at that higher level. And the thing is that you need to know for your own self what your aptitudes are, and do the best that you can to achieve greater than what you had, currently, or whatever that looks like for you. I don't feel like I don't know. I just feel like people are conflating a lot of things together that don't necessarily need to be conflated. Sorry, I'm like having like a stream of consciousness even as I'm
No, no,
like,
no, no. And that's fine because I don't disagree with you. I wish. How do I put this? For
it's
me, what I wish is for honesty. And I
yeah,
wish more men would come out. Not that I would agree with them on this, because I think you should provide, right?
yeah.
But I wish more men would come out and say, look, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. But the people who actually should be tired aren't the one talking. So that's it.
Yeah.
Where's my
Yeah.
camera gone?
I don't know. Exactly. Oh yeah, and then in regard to that, I wanted to comment on that, the tiredness thing of like Black women and how we've been working. Someone else said it, and I agree. I think was concerned that a lot of Black women work not because we want to, or like not, we don't like take on as much as we do because we want to, but because we kind of have to, because no one who else is going to do it. And to that point, I just wanted to share a quick little anecdote, and I have never forgotten it. Over the course of my life, I've been able to interact with many different people, been in many different rooms. And there was a Black woman I remember I was working with when I was in my early 20s. I was a manager at a store, and she was doing it part-time, but she had a full-time office job, professional. I think she was an accountant or something of that sort. She had a husband, which then they were now divorced, and it was time for her daughter to be starting college. Her husband had promised her that he was provide her the money, or his half of the money, to pay their daughter's tuition. She goes to ask the man for the money, and then he chose not to give it to her. How I came to know this story is because she asked me for more hours, and I'm like, you're already so tired. I could literally see it on her face, Themis. And when I tell you, I get mad and angry and start cuss, like, I was like, no. Even though I'm younger than her, I was like, no. I'm like, no, I can see that you're physically tired. You are already doing too much as it is.
Wait. I'm going to be petty. I'm going to be real petty with you now. I'm sorry. I have to do it.
Okay.
So tell me again. I know you already conceded it. Tell me again how the man's role to go toil the earth and be the provider is not a suggestion. I'm kidding. Ignore me. Go
No,
ahead.
I didn't say it's not a suggestion, or what have you. But no, but the thing is that he's not living up to his part. That's the whole thing. Is that the men are not living up to their
They
role.
don't have to. They literally don't have to.
But how do you control for that though? That's the thing. Like, you shouldn't have to. Like, they're just whatless. They're just worthless. It's like, that's your child too. That's your child too. You literally have no sense of dignity or honor or self-respect that you would. And you know what he said to her? He said to her, well, we're not together anymore, so then why should I? I said, what? I was like, you know what? Let me
Look,
just
if
walk
y'all,
away from you because I will disrespect this man and I do not know him.
if y'all are gonna sit in my comment section, try to convince me that these men are going to go toil the earth so you can have the children, and that's just that on that. You have a rude awakening.
We're not saying
I'm
that they are
ready.
going to do it. We're saying that they ought to do it. There's a difference. And you can't force
Do
people.
you ought to have children after you have children? You already have the children. How are they gonna ought to? It sounds like a suggestion to me now. It sounds like a suggestion. Let me get on my phone. Go ahead. I'm not gonna interrupt you again because that
No,
that don't sound right.
no. So
Y'all make a deal. No, I'm not done. I'm gonna continue.
no, so and that has really like been etched in my mind. I was like, wow, like I can't believe that he actually had the gall to say that to you. And so she said to me, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, that's my daughter, and I'm not going to let her education slip away from her or like, pass up this opportunity for her to go to school because my ex-husband is not pulling his weight or doing his part. And it angered me so much because then even in that moment, I was like, what can be done to have this not happen? Do you understand what I'm saying? And so to the point of like the Black community and what to do or what have you, concerned question is really very valid in terms of like, it's really looking like we may cease to exist. Like I've been thinking like we're about to like not exist no more. Because if the Black men are divesting and Black women are also doing the same, then soon enough, I don't know what's going to happen to us because we definitely cannot do this by ourselves and we cannot force people either. I don't believe in forcing people into anything. You have to choose of your own volition, what you want out of your life. And that's the whole point, right? And Black women have internalized certain like values and principles that are good from the Bible, but the Black men have not done it. And that's the issue. And you cannot force them to. You cannot, just like you cannot vet somebody, you cannot like convince someone into rising to the occasion to be a better person.
All right. I mean, I'm gonna continue move on, but
Yeah.
I just want to point out to the chat, not for my sake, because I don't care about winning an argument or anything like that, but I do want to point out that, the thing is, why did we even get down this path? Not your path, but like in the Christianity discussion, because I feel like as a Black woman, you should already know certain things. Like you should already know that there is no guarantee that the other party is going to be there to provide.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
punishment, period. Go ahead. I have so many issues with my own religion, and that's something that I'm going to only do personally now, and I will not bring it forward because I don't think it's fair. All right. Go ahead. I think Jamie's next.
Hello, Themis. So I would first like to bring up the facts in that most mothers in the Black community especially, are in fact the breadwinners, partially because of the single mother rate, causing it to be 60.9%. Is that 60.9% breadwinners of the household? And then even married mothers, half of them, a little more than half of married mothers are the breadwinners of their family. So already in the Black community, and this is based off the Women's Policy Institute for Women's Policy Research from 2016. So we don't know how dramatic it's changed over the years as Black women have been getting their education and increasing their wealth over the last 8 to 10 years. And I would just like to say that I've been having these talks on Facebook and other areas, and it's pretty much straightforward that the only way that Black families are going to progress in this society is if we engage in more egalitarian tactics. We understand that Black women are increasingly doing better and better, and that some men are many men are falling behind, and that it would be good if some of them were actually willing to be stay-at-home dads, or just do enough to support the family. But that's not happening because we're trying to fit into the patriarchal mold of the father being the head of the household, even if he doesn't have the money to be the head of the household, considering our conditions. So it's really just a conundrum there.
Interesting.
If I could add something, I definitely agree, but I have a feeling like even if Black men were to develop more of an egalitarian mindset, I can't help but feel like a lot of them would be doing it under the guise of riding a Black woman's coattails. Because, if it comes to that point where Black women really do start, just as a whole, of course, not every single one, but as a whole, exercising their options, which me personally, I define that as, choosing
Dating who
from.
loves you, dating who likes you.
Yeah, dating who likes you, even if it is a Black man, right? Because I consider myself divested, but I still would date a Black man. You do have some people who wouldn't want to date a Black man at all because of their own experiences and things like that. I can't speak to that, but I can't help but feel that if it really does come to a point where Black women really do start exercising their options, and you see the numbers start to shoot up the same way they shot up for Black men, that Black men would only want to then be with a Black woman as a way to, if you can't be, join them kind of mentality.
Wait, I have a question. Jamie, I literally didn't hear anything you just said. I had to take a really important call. So I apologize. And I apologize to the audience for that, but I literally had to go.
All I did was that I brought up the quick figures from the Institute for Women's Policy Research from 2000. Well, the year that it was published is 2020, but the data is from 2014 to 2018, which
So what did you say? No, what is your ultimate conclusion?
That Black women, particularly mothers in general, Black mothers in general, have already surpassed the threshold and are the breadwinners over 80% of the time. 60% of it is because of the single mother rate. But even within a marriage, over 50% of Black women are already the breadwinners.
All right, that is true. But what is your takeaway from that? What should happen?
The takeaway is that we need to move towards being more egalitarian, despite the urge, despite the instinct, I guess, to fall into patriarchal roles that require the man to be the head, even the man to be the head, and try to force it, even though you don't have the money to be the head or the know-how to be the head.
So I feel like it should imply that Black men should work harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, wait. So there's a couple of things. I am for egalitarian, but I'm not for telling people how to structure their relationship. But I think we are all not mostly Christians, and so wait.
I think
wait. I want him to finish on this point because I want to understand it more. Can you explain why egalitarian comes up more than men doing better? Because I have leftover patriarchy.
Well, actually, the most successful men in the most successful marriages are egalitarian. In most of these statistics, where they're saying that Black men are the most involved, the most in the home, the most likely to take care of their children, etc., 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 those are usually married. Those are usually men who are in the home. Those are usually egalitarian men who are sharing the responsibilities, because they're sharing the responsibility of taking care of that child.
No,
Obviously,
it's because
if
the
they're
men who no. In my opinion, it's because those men were lying. I do not like self-reported studies because a lot of the men who said they didn't feel like they spent enough time with their children and actually underestimated how much time they spent into child rearing do so because that's how they were sort of acculturated. I don't like a self-reported study. If people come to me and ask me if I'm dumb, I'm probably gonna say no.
okay, you aren't going to support that research, well, that
Not
study
that I
in
don't
sports.
support it. I accept that people use it, but I don't think it means exactly what they think it means. But because I've heard men who,
I
wait,
get that.
I've actually seen on YouTube where men say, "Yeah, I pay my child support every month, so I'm a good father." And I'm sitting there like, in what world is doing that the bare minimum, which is providing? You're not even really providing financially if you're only paying child support. But so I caution the use. I will not chastise you for
Hmm.
using it. You can continue to use it. I just won't accept it.
Yeah. Well, I'm choosing to believe in that statistics because most of those men, according to the data that was gathered, were in the home, which naturally makes me assume that most of them are married because most of them are married or at least cohabitating because only 5% of
Wait, you
black
can't
men.
say most. Wait, you can't say most were married if the word they use is cohabitation.
Mm-hmm.
No, well,
We're getting.
they said in the home. That's the verbiage that they
Oh,
used.
that
My my
definitely. Wait, if they say in the home, they definitely don't mean marriage. But I think we're getting in the minutia in a way that I don't think is
hmm
fair to you. It's not fair to you. I don't think this is useful to you. So you're saying you want more egalitarian. I think that men and women should be equal in terms of how we view each other. But when you say egalitarian, are you talking about like being able to 50-50 financially?
um not necessarily 50-50 financially because sometimes one person is making more than the other, so it doesn't make sense to be 50-50 financially. It
So you're
makes more
okay
sense
with it being in a relationship that, in your mind, egalitarian, where the woman is paying 80%.
as long as the man is pulling his end and making sure
Wait,
to
wait, wait,
to
wait.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because, like, I literally just said 2 seconds ago that I would prefer for men to be honest, and I guess I don't want to.
Okay.
Wait, so who gonna have the children? Who gonna carry the child 50% of the time?
That's what I'm saying. As long as he's pulling his end, in my opinion, during
How
that
you gonna
time
carry the
during that time of having having of bringing a child into the world, naturally the man is supposed to be doing 90-10. It's supposed to be flexible when
Yeah.
you're in egalitarian relationships, especially
so?
depending on who's suffering at the moment and who needs
All right,
extra support at the moment.
that's cute in theory. That is cute in theory, but like if the woman is providing 90% of the financial resources and she gets pregnant and it's a really tough pregnancy, what happens to the household then? No, I'm not. Someone say what's wrong with egalitarian. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with egalitarian. I do think you get to structure however you want your relationship. I am just trying to contemplate what
The
egalitarian
the
means.
the same thing that happens in the relationship when the man gets sick.
No, I mean when if the woman provides 90% of the financial resources, when the man gets sick, hopefully 95% can carry the whole family for because whatever. But if the woman is taken out of the game of
Mm-hmm.
of capitalism for 9 months because it's well, let's do 7 months because it becomes a tough pregnancy throughout. How then does the family survive where the man can provide? Oh, that rhymes. Period. I'm a rapper.
Well, I expect the man to at least be providing enough to maintain.
If you can provide enough when she's pregnant, then you just revert back to like not providing.
Well, okay. In my mind, somebody has to do their best to be with the children more in most relationships in order to make sure that they're reaching their goals.
What?
So the person who's making less income is usually supposed to be that person.
I'm so confused. You're not answering my question. If the man does not have the financial resource but decides to couple with wait, so men someone said men should submit.
No, I'm not comparing a 6 or 7 month pregnancy to a man getting sick for a couple of days. I'm just saying, like, if somebody gets seriously sick for a long time, usually the choices are to either leave or.
Jamie, let me argue with the chat on your behalf. Y'all said y'all want the men to come up and be honest. Y'all don't get to get mad at these men for being honest. The man said he want a provider. So let it be. Let him be. And you guys don't get to argue with this man at all for wanting to be in a 50-50, not a provider, sorry, a 50-50 relationship. Period. Go ahead, Jamie. Go off.
I would prefer to be in an egalitarian relationship where the responsibilities would be shared equally, but naturally when.
Right. So the financial, you want to be with someone who goes 50-50.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. You don't think, are you a Christian?
Culturally, yes. Yeah.
And you don't believe in submission, right? That's
No, I don't believe in submission at all.
All right. So women don't have to submit to you.
No.
All right. Would you consider yourself like quote unquote a la carte Christian?
No, not really.
So you don't wait, how don't you believe the men should be the head?
Okay. Then when you say a la carte, I would say then yeah, a la carte.
All right. And so you don't believe the part you decide to not adhere to is that the man should be the head.
Yes.
So men should not be there. Period. Well, who want to argue with this man? This man put out his argument. That is what it is.
I don't want to argue. I want to ask, and so I'm willing to let who wants to argue go first. But I want to
argue with him. But does anyone find anything wrong? Look, I'm not gonna sit there. Someone said, "Themis, you are being obtuse." No, I'm not. I'm not being obtuse. I'm here. Look, you're gonna create your relationship how you want, and if you believe
cultural Christian means I was raised in a Christian household, so naturally I absorbed most of the traditions.
So I think that, based off of what you're saying, and this is not to disrespect you, you came in good faith.
No, then don't do it.
I'm not going to disrespect him.
I'm tough. I'm not going to go crazy.
No, and I'm not going to go crazy either. What I'm saying is that you're still under the impression that you have the leverage, that we are still willing to put a Black community over Black women's best interest. Like, and again, my goal is not fully identified at this point, but
Concerned is talking right now.
I want a Black community more than I want Black women peace. But what I'm saying is that when you've talked about, you know, a woman being willing to be the breadwinner in a society where she's gonna get, you know, she's gonna have to do twice as much for half as much, and be making pennies on the dollar, and so she's gonna have to work so much harder, and still, I mean, yeah, the guy can cook, clean, take care of the child. I think men are totally capable of that, but her physical body is being sacrificed as a host for
Wait,
a child.
concern. I'm going to
And
interrupt
I've
you. No,
already
no, no, no.
addressed that concern.
Wait. Concern, I'm going to interrupt you because what you're trying to do is change someone's perspective. And what I'm not about to do is have him go back in the closet. I want men to come
No,
out.
I've always believed this way. I've always believed this, and it's not. There's nothing really going to change my opinion on it. I would like for concern to finish her argument.
Wait, before concern does, I want to caution her. I want more men to come out and say what they really want. And I think if we try to dissuade them or push back too much, they won't. It's easier for you to acknowledge and see men when they come out and tell you, look, this is what I want. I would love for them to be more like, this is good. This is a good thing. Maybe not for you. This is a good thing. Go ahead now, concerned.
Totally. I mean, I kind of ended because I took notes as it came to my spirit, but you know, it ends with a question for men. So, you know, when we think about some of these sermons and the ways that Black women will go toward, you know, patriarchy, because within this, right now, we're taking God out of the picture because a lot of these men, for example, TD Jakes, will come on and make the sermon about patriarchy, not about Christ. So when we think about the indoctrination into patriarchy that women have, a lot of times when we think about white men's three-dimensional chess and they do all of this thing against Black women, against the Black community, I think Black men do a great job of upholding white supremacy without the need for white men to look at it. It's on autopilot right now because
Definitely.
of how intrinsically connected we are to just listening to Black men make up stuff to serve their own best interest when it comes to things that were or were not in the Bible, to push us to do to accept things that don't serve us. And when I think about
we have 30 more minutes. My moderators are just going ham in the chat. Is he fit? You have a taker. Ray seems to be a taker. They're asking if you're fit and friendly. Jamie.
Yes, I am, and I'm and I'm in the IT industry. I'm making a decent amount of money. It's not. I just feel that relationships should be as equal as possible, and that's it, pretty much.
And I don't mind the equalness, right? But for us to kind of circle back to the earlier question, right? What are Black women willing to let go of a Black future? That's literally the only leverage, the undertone of everything these men talk about, everything. Kevin Samuels got to be on the BET Awards as a memoriam just because he sprinkled in the Black community, you know, what is good for the Black community in it. What if Black women were to say, what is best for the Black community is no longer my most ultimate, my priority, there would be Black men would lose their leverage entirely. And I think that
that's definitely understandable.
Last point. If Black women are willing to leave the table, what are Black men willing to do to bring us back? And I'm not saying that in a way of talking about repentance. I'm not talking about turn back 10 ways. I'm not talking about apologetics or apologies. Don't give me reasons. What are you willing to sacrifice for Black women to come back to this table? Because the grievances are pretty severe.
Wait, but there is a underlying assumption that they care.
Exactly. And if they don't care, then we can all leave this table and leave the idea of a Black community alone. But I do believe that since they're showing up in spaces where Black women are saying we no longer care about the Black community, it sounds like some of them do. And I need to and I'm saying that to the point that we are at, we're not talking, just giving you the cheat code. We're not talking about repentance, apologetics. We're talking about sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice to bring people back to a table where there could be a Black future? And for those who are interested in one.
Well, the only thing that a man can sacrifice is his life to at this point, because
no, it's not your life. Women don't want your life.
We're gonna move on from that question, because I promise you, even if they did care, they're not gonna admit it. Like, it's not gonna happen. Not on this platform. I promise.
Totally. It's still out in the ether anyway, though. They're gonna sleep on it. All right, I'm done.
But why would you expect? But why would you expect me to sacrifice, though?
Wait.
I don't
know. No one will sleep on it. No one will care about it. I promise you, because if people didn't have the foresight to recognize,
but I care about it, though.
If people did not have the foresight to know that Roe v. Wade being overturned is going to have tremendous implication, they might. He said he cares about it, but I promise it's not gonna. No, not. That is to overtly tell Black women how much they care about them and what they will do in an effort to make sure that Black women feel safe and protected. Go ahead, Jamie. Let me hear it.
Wait, I didn't go yet.
Jamie said Jamie said he cared, so I want to hear what Jamie said.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only thing we could do is care enough to support black women in everything that they do to uplift themselves. I don't really see how what men can sacrifice besides what they usually sacrifice in traditional patriarchy, because the world is set up in a way that men don't really have much to sacrifice except for money and
their egos.
But are you gonna sacrifice your money 50? I thought you wanted 50-50. I thought you were like I thought you've divested from patriarchy. Not a bad thing. I'm just saying.
But do women want to continue the patriarchy? Do people want to continue the patriarchy?
I mean, most Christians on this channel aren't opposed to the patriarchy. They just don't want it to be misogynistic. But I mean, I don't know where I come out on. I do know where I come out on that.
I personally don't believe in continuing the patriarchy. So that's why my position is my position is the way it is.
But you're not. I'm just asking if you're willing to sacrifice your time and money to make sure that women feel protected, i.e., they don't have to work, and they can if they want, but like you would be the provider.
Yes, I would be willing to do that, but my preference for a relationship is egalitarian, equal contributions, equal input in all things in a relationship.
All right, period. Anyway,
but that's not a sacrifice. That's not a sacrifice.
Yeah, but that's why. But that's why.
Like nothing happened.
But what can a person?
I don't care about this conversation anymore. I'm sorry.
All right, fair enough.
Not it's not you. It's just like the point of the question will not be answered here. It's not gonna. This is not where it's gonna happen. Like not right now. Tony, go ahead.
Okay, I was actually prepared to answer that question. But I was gonna be okay, so for me, I am someone who will say what people are thinking most of the time for a living. I used to do it on IG. I just started the video.
I cannot hear you at all. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can't hear me?
You're going in and out. It's really muffled.
Let me
I actually want to take a time to apologize. Oh, I don't know who did Concern leave? No, I think she's still there. I want to apologize to both speakers. Because I wanted to end that, but that's not the right way to end the conversation. So I apologize. I did not mean to be disrespectful to either of you. I just thought about how I ended that, and I didn't like it. So I apologize to both of you. But we're still not going to continue that convo. So go ahead, Tony. No, it's not working. Sorry, I'm so
Hold on.
sorry. Oh, they said don't forget the video. All right, for everyone. Oh my God, we're gonna skip TD Jakes because I don't care. We're gonna skip TD Jakes and we're gonna go straight into some foolishness. Are you guys ready? I will not put it on the screen because it does not do no. So this man is on a show and he comes up. They were talking about, should I talk about who they were talking about? No, I don't care about that. And they were talking about someone who passed away. And so he came up to give his testimony. And I want you guys to hear what he says, and then we'll come back and talk.
We got to make some changes around here because I feel like the opportunity, like a lot of people, it really bothered me when we lost KS a few months ago, and I was just kind of like, getting past it or whatever, and then we get.
We're doing this in the after show. I just realized. Let me just end this. Sorry. Thank y'all for coming. We're going to do it in the after show.
Get the official news, and even though it did kind of sadden me, but for a lot of his followers,
Sorry, I'm only doing this because I think we can do it together. Do not talk about Kevin Samuels. Do not talk about Kevin Samuels' death. That is not what I'm talking about here today. I will never talk about that in any meaningful way on this channel. It is not my place to do that. Please, please refrain from commenting in any way on his death. What I want to talk about is what this man is saying.
I know we did kind of feel vindicated a little bit because there were so many things that were said about him that just weren't true. But I'll just say this, man. I'm thankful that we had the brother for the amount of time that we did. I did listen to him quite a bit and learn quite a bit from him. I did have, I grew up with a father in a home, but like a lot of us, what we're kind of speaking of today, he spent so much time outside of the home because he had to work that some life lessons, they weren't they weren't being able, he wasn't able to give them because he was away so much. And so for me, Kevin kind of fills in that gap. And, I listened to him. I took his advice. I spent money on myself, getting my own, hiring a life coach to kind of get me pointed in the right direction. But oddly enough, upon his passing, it kind of hit me. It was like, you know what, man, you can't do this on your own. And I got my own family, wife, kids, and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of followed the pattern of my my father, which is my mom didn't work a lot. She mostly stayed home with us. And he went out and took care of his family, which we're all brought up. It was supposed to be our duties as men. But I'm in LA, Red. I'm in LA. This shit is expensive as hell out here, man. So, and my wife is sitting here with all these degrees, and I just sat down and talked to her. And I was like, look, we got to make some changes around here because I feel like I'm working so hard. I'm taking years off my life, and I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm not cool with that. My kids, man, they're 12 and 8.
All right, we don't need to go any further. So he's working too much and he's taking years off his life. So she needed to go work and she has all this degree, right? I thought their degrees didn't matter. I thought the whole point was that your women, your degrees don't matter. So when you decide to be with a woman who does not have not even degrees but jobs, right? And you decide that, oh my God, wait, I now need to rest. Wait, why are you resting? Why are you resting? If her degrees and jobs don't matter, you don't get to rest. That is the point. That is the whole point. By the way, I'm going to bring up this comment. I'm glad Truth Teller came back and said, oh, that because like I was going to do this, but men are punished by having the entire responsibility, I think, to work and provide place on them. By the sweat of their brow shall they eat bread. All right. So if y'all are going to sit here and keep quoting Bible scriptures to me, there's going to be a problem. My problem is going to be simply this: men don't have to work. Regardless of how you want to cut it, they're not real men, they're not good men, they're not living up to this, they don't have to work. Right? So to me, when I hear women using this as a justification for anything really, it's really difficult for me to take it serious. I actually laugh in the back of my mind because I know the reality. These people don't have to work. And all these men online, I told you that I would much rather them come out and talk about it. I would much rather them all be feminist, honestly, and own up to it, because the truth is you cannot sustain. You cannot sustain yourself, you cannot sustain a family, right? So you need people's help. And you pretending like, oh, I am a high value this and I'm a high value that. No, you're not. If you have to work, he was saying 90 hours a week, and you still can provide for your family, unfortunately, you have not lived up to whatever mantle the capitalistic society requires for you to take care of your family. And the woman now has to engage in labor, actual labor out. Well, I shouldn't even say actual labor, because
Paid
actual
labor, paid labor.
the labor you do in the home is really tough. So wage labor in order to provide for a family you claim you're the head of? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No, 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 no. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You don't get to be up here telling women their education and job doesn't matter when you want them to work and provide for you too. You don't get to do that. Those are inconsistent. Absolutely inconsistent. All right, we're gonna go through now. Actually, the people who came on are at the bottom. I'm going to get you guys to speak for 3 minutes, and then we do a 1 minute for each person wrap up. So I think Jack didn't get to speak. I'm not for everyone. Did you get to speak? You're muted.
Oh no, not yet.
All right. So we do Jack, I'm not for everyone, me not me, Tony, and then Prince Petty. You all have 3 minutes. Jack, you go first.
Hello, famous. Can you hear me?
Very low, but yes.
Hi. The reason why I came on is because I wanted to ask why you seem to have an issue with egalitarian marriage or relationship, but now we've moved on from that.
We
So,
haven't. I think this is part of it. I don't personally have a problem with egalitarian. I just wanted him to define it. And I do think women are at a distinct disadvantage in egalitarian relationships, in egalitarian in terms of financially providing in a household, unless it's like actually 50-50, which is never real. But if women are paying 90% of everything, you better not get sick, and you better not be off work, and that's harsh. Similarly, I mean, not similarly, but that's my opinion.
okay, so when I think of egalitarian relationship or marriage, I kind of see it as more on seeing each person as equals.
Oh yeah, I think that
And
should
it's not
exist.
necessarily about finances. So whichever important thing they bring to the relationship, that has equal worth. So I personally think egalitarian relationships are a lot more healthy than a patriarchal or even a matriarchal one.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I was
So,
thinking specifically financial.
oh, okay. Well, I'm not quite sure entirely whether he was focused on the finance, but I was trying to figure out what the pushback was. So it's because you were zoning in more on the finances.
Yep.
But outside of the finances, do you think an egalitarian marriage or relationship is more healthy?
Yeah, I think you guys coming together to make decisions and do things and like determine childcare, all of that. Yeah, no, I absolutely. I think the thing is, outside of finances, I hope everything else is egalitarian
Yeah.
for every relationship. I'm not telling you how to do what you need to do, but I don't. The whole submission thing doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, no, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, submission, I think, is
I'm going to
soul
get
destroying.
killed for this. I'm going to get killed for this, but I do think the fact that women are expected in some ways, even though some can't, some don't want to, and some won't ever have children. I think that changes how I view equal and quote unquote what you're bringing to this proverbial dusty table.
Well,
I mean, feminists disagree with me on that, but
Not dusty things.
Not dusty, I know.
Yeah, it's dusty.
I don't,
Accurate.
I don't know exactly what feminism you're referring to, but
most of my people that I know who are feminists would be pissed if I said that.
if you said what exactly?
That the fact that you carry children or can or will or might have to should weigh, should tip the scale in terms of what you quote unquote bring to the table.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it should. No, generally, feminists disagree with this.
It does.
Look, I say black men are feminists online because they don't think this matters. And feminists, the feminists I know, they would disagree with me on that because they're like, it doesn't matter. We can have our children and then get back to business. Beyonce quote 2022.
Themis, I think you did the story about the lady who was with her partner unmarried and he wanted a child and she was going to then charge him for her worth. I don't so I think this kind of goes to that, the charge for having, the children. I think she was saying that there needed to be a contract, and she was to be paid about $100,000 or so per child for the time she would need to take off of work and fall behind on her career path and odds and ends. I think it was you that talked about that. It wasn't? It's a really interesting story. It's a really interesting story.
Wait, before we continue though, Jack, I'm going to give you an extra 2 minutes because I want to hear your thoughts on my response.
Well, I think it's good that you are with. So I think it's good that you think egalitarian relationships and marriage is more healthy outside of finances. I agree with that because I think that if there is just one emphasis on men are the leaders, or if some liberal feminist thinks that, because they are making lots of money, that they should be the leaders in their household, I think it doesn't really produce a well-rounded, respectful, and healthy and nurturing environment, because men and women bring many different things to this quote unquote table, and it's all equal in their worth. And I would like to think that more people would
Do you think
see
I
it like that.
overvalue? Do you think I overvalue childbearing?
No.
I
have
don't
to
know.
say, like, I feel like
100
that's like the ultimate. I feel terrible saying things like this, but I feel like it's the ultimate sacrifice.
No,
If anybody
no,
wants to have
you're
your
completely
it
right. It is the
really,
ultimate sacrifice.
but it really depends on the woman, I think, because there's some women who get pregnant indiscriminately and don't really care, and then there's some women who find it a challenge, and it's really hard for many different reasons. I really think it depends on the woman. I wouldn't say it's an ultimate sacrifice.
I don't think it depends on the woman though, because I think there are objective realities about childbearing, and I don't think, even if you claim to love it, there are things that it does to your body. There are things that it does that just happens naturally in terms of being pregnant. And I don't think, I mean, for some people it's easier, but I do think that there are objective realities about having children that, I mean, the fact that a man can, if a man could do it, then we could have an egalitarian relationship in my mind. But like,
So
I
speaking,
don't think
So I think you
sorry,
guys
can
are
I just say one
misunderstanding
thing?
egalitarian
no, no,
a
no,
little
no, no,
bit.
no, 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 no. Wait.
Can I just say one thing? I don't think because a man can't give birth means that he has less worth in this world.
No, no one said that.
That's kind of the implication, though.
No, there's a cost to the woman's body for pregnancy. There's costs that are paid for any
Yeah,
female
I
in the
mean,
process of
even
reproduction.
wait, stop. If we're talking about a hunter-gatherer society, for example, you literally are at a distinct disadvantage being pregnant. You might want to make sure the person who impregnate you is one who can protect you during this time. Like it's not like I understand the move to say, oh well, blah blah blah, children this, children that. No, the fact that you can have children is something that is of grave consequence, not just to the society actually continuing the society, but also there is a personal cost to having children.
Stop
Wow.
it. Stop
Wow.
it. I rebuke
Agreed.
you in the name of Jesus. No, sir.
You just had to
Wow.
slip that word in there, didn't you?
That
It
was
really
rude.
depends. It
But
really
you ain't
depends on the
lying.
woman.
It is like a
It really
parasite
depends on
on
the
your
woman
body.
because there are some women
Facts.
who don't really care about how they get pregnant and they don't see it as a
I mean
sacrifice.
that's even if there were like 2 or 3 or 5 million people who don't care about how they get pregnant, it doesn't change the fact of the reality of pregnancy. Like even if you just want to go and have children, which sure, maybe there are women who want to do that, it does not change the reality that, well, if you're having children, this is what it's gonna do to your body.
Yeah,
Like
I understand that.
Yeah, but
I
some
agree
women.
with you.
wait, let me
But some
Okay.
women don't actually care, and some women do care. So when you're talking about the ultimate sacrifice, some women don't see it as a sacrifice. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah, even if they don't see it, like people can say, oh, God didn't punish me, but like if it is a punishment, it's a punishment. So I move away from like subjective belief about something and say, to the extent there are objective realities, does this operate like a sacrifice? Well, if it's one of the closest things you can get to death, then yeah, it sounds like a sacrifice to me.
So children is the trump card. So if she doesn't have children, if she doesn't have children, then egalitarianism is possible.
If she does not have children, it's not that egalitarian is possible. Like you can be in an egalitarian relationship with someone who have children. I'm just let's be real. Let me say what I'm saying. If I were a woman, absolutely not. There would be no egalitarian anything. Absolutely not.
Okay, well then
But
say
why?
that.
Why would you say that?
If I am going to be with you and provide children as a quote unquote woman, I am literally, no, you're going to have to provide the palace and the maids to clean it. So, I mean, that's just that on that for me. But I understand that's impractical, and I would never tell women that they should not be with someone because they can't fully provide for them. If that's what you want and you want to do 50-50, I am go do that.
But that's why I'm sorry to cut you off, Themis, but that's why I'm saying that men and women bring different things to a relationship, especially when it comes to biology, but it has equal worth. And
Yeah,
that's
no,
what
I agree.
egalitarianism is about.
Yeah, no, I agree. But the thing you need to bring is financial resources if we're in a capitalistic society, and I won't be able to work for a couple months.
But wouldn't an easy counter to that would be to save money in advance and plan your pregnancy instead of just
No,
having children
absolutely not.
willy-nilly?
It's not going to be my labor that takes care of me while I'm in labor for our children. Absolutely not.
So
No.
you are really patriarchal.
No, I'm not patriarchal in that sense. I think
That's
you can be
realistic.
egalitarian. I think that you have a trump card. Now, the question where you guys should be going is, okay, what if women don't want to have children and this couple live together and they don't want to have children? And I would say, I don't care. Y'all can do what y'all want to do.
So, Themis, I guess you're basically saying that women having children is a high enough cost and sacrifice that they are paying by virtue of child rearing and the pains and challenges comes along with that, such that they ought not be expected to also then go out and work on top of that.
If God is punishing men to go toil the earth and punishing women to have labor, you're going to go toil. You're going to go toil. Absolutely, you're going to go toil. I'm not going to, like, how are you going to do your end of the punishment, but he's not going to do his end of the punishment? What sense does that make? The philosophers of old recognize this. I mean, to the extent you believe the Bible is not, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but again, I think that I can't address why God chose to punish the way in which that he punished. Okay. And so that is what it is. But with regard to that, the thing is that men choosing not to do their part as it pertains to providing, is their own cross that they have to bear, or what have you. And the thing is that order for men and women,
that there is a God, and I believe there is, and if you're hoping there is a God and then he'll be punished, that they will be punished in the end. No, you need to uphold your end of the bargain. No.
Yeah, but they should, but how does one enforce that? Because that's the thing is that women are choosing to have children.
That's a separate question.
Feel like it's worth it, right? And so here's the thing.
Wait, truth teller. That is a fair, considerate, understandable, and good question that I don't care about, because we know we're not going to enforce any of it.
Okay, well, so then there it is. And that's where we diverge in, because it's like, I agree with you in saying that, because again, as I said to you when we had the last conversation or whatnot, my reading of the Bible, when I read through it, I do not get, and also to that end, I need to be doing, because I've been re-questioning a lot of things, not pertaining to my faith, but the way in which people are questioning to the extent that Christianity promotes patriarchy, which I fundamentally, I don't believe that it promotes it. I feel like people use it as a tool to justify
it. You don't think the Bible says man should be the head and the leader?
It does say that, but I don't think the way in which it's interpreted, I don't know. I don't think not the way in which it's practiced.
If you say men are supposed to be the head or the leader, it is patriarchy. By virtue of being man, you should be the leader. It is patriarchy.
But do you accept the fact that the way in which patriarchy manifests itself in this society, right, is perceived as it's sort of like a pejorative, like patriarchy, it's this.
No, there's a horrible connotation to it.
Yeah.
It is bad, and people usually mistake it for misogyny and all of that, but that's fine. Yeah. Saying the man is the leader is patriarchy, and I don't care how badly that tastes in people's mouth. It is what it is. Now, I need to rectify what that means about my Jesus, but that's something I have to do.
Okay.
But I'm not willing to say it's not patriarchy. It is. There's no point in the Bible where I'm reading where I think, you know what? Women are powerful beings that are above, beside or above men. No, it's always, I feel when I read it that men are supposed to be the leaders and they are in charge. That is what I get from the Bible. That is how I read the Bible. I could be wrong, I am willing to be proven wrong, but that's what I get from the Bible.
Okay.
So my father had me and married my stepmother, who had her own children. At a point, she couldn't work anymore, and he provided. They never had kids together. I don't get this convo. I'm sorry, I don't understand the comment. But yeah, I mean, I don't fully understand the comment.
Okay.
They are complaining about us indicting marriage.
I hope I'm
No,
not
no,
indicted.
no. That's not what's happening. It's in an egalitarian relationship. You believe that men and women are equal, and you treat them as equal. And if one party can't do their is incapacitated in some way, you would support them through their incapacitation as they would support you in their incapacitation.
I
So
mean,
it's
Jack. Wait, no, stop. Jack's expression of egalitarian, I appreciate, because to the extent that we're talking about people being fully human, then sure, like I'm here for it. You're not going to get me to agree with you that men shouldn't provide financially, particularly when you've impregnated someone. It's not gonna happen today, not tonight. So women who are
that's
unable
never
to get
really
paid,
been my argument.
that's not a debate. I mean, it's not your argument. I'm just trying to move on. So women who are unable to have children have less value compared to those who can crazy. When you say less value, I think you guys are not understanding something. If we're talking about continuing, whatever, it's not about you having intrinsic value in your personhood. But if we're talking about who needs the most care, the person among all the women in the world now, if y'all are all healthy, the person who needs the most care would probably be a pregnant person. Like
That's true.
That's what the Bible says. That's literally the Bible has in Revelations. The women who are pregnant have it worse during the worst of times. The Bible recognizes pregnancy as a handicap.
Yeah, let's remember that tending to the house and kids can be a job. No, not can be.
It is. It is a job. It is a
tremendous
job.
job. Yeah. I believe
So
women
then are you
20
saying poor men then shouldn't have children? Probably.
Yeah, we have
That's
had
what the
this
Bible
live.
says.
Yeah, that's kind of true. But
We've had this live, and I think if you can provide for you, let me stop because whatever. Enforcing punishment is God's job. I'm taking notes. All right, let's continue now. So that was Jack. Me, not me. You have 3 minutes. Sorry, I went off on that tangent. And then Tony, and then Prince Petty.
No worries. So I just a little bit about, I noticed, but it's the way the world is. There's a little bit of when we talk about these relationships, there's so much commodification. I really think that it probably is hindering this next generation from really kind of finding like meaningful emotional relationships and companionships, because everything is such a transactional vernacular. And since I'm so old, like back in the day, this kind of didn't exist, so it's always a little bit off-putting, these terms like high value and this table and all these other sorts of things. It's like, where's the romance in the conversation? But I understand that they have to be had. But it's really just, we're really trying to set a framework to treat people differently, literally based on their income. And I know we have to do this as like Black women specifically, as a defense mechanism for kind of the situation that we've been placed in. So I just kind of wanted to start there because it is ultimately a little bit disturbing. But with this egalitarian setup, where the gentleman first started talking about it probably about 30 minutes ago, I just feel that it opens up a lot of Black women if they were to just go ahead and say, yes, we're going to do that. We're going to accept that we're the breadwinners and have the babies. I feel like it would lead to a lot of usury.
What do you mean it will? Pause your time. What do you mean it will?
Or it has. It is. It would just be perpetuated. I just don't feel that the men would suddenly then see value in these women. I think this generation of, we'll just quote unquote stay-at-home dads, I feel like they would probably be cheating. Are they doing more things with the kids? Are they actually educating the kids at home and doing all the nurturing steps? Or, as lots of men I know call it, when they watch their kids babysitting. Um, so, I think all that goes into it too, because it's really not just physically sitting at home, with your kid. There's so much more that goes into it,
My
than that.
grandmother, before she passed, said feminism was people trying to get women out there to work, and women bought into it.
It's interesting. I don't completely disagree with that, but the lifestyle that you have been describing is literally kind of like how my lifestyle is as a 40-something-year-old woman. I have been with my now husband for over 10 years altogether, but we don't have kids because, even though when we started off, he was making a whole lot more money than me. And just over time, unexpectedly, my field just kind of really took off. And then I became the primary breadwinner, even though he still makes really good money, but I make, more. So, and here's the thing, and this is something like we think about and we talk about, I've never really been a big fan of having a child, but I would consider it if he really wanted it to fulfill, his emotional needs or what have you, if that was his desire. However, that would not take place unless there was a way that he could compensate for my income, because I would not want, my lifestyle to be diminished in case something happened and I couldn't, because I run my own business, so it's just and I feel like people are so emotional about it that they really can't see the kind of the bricks, the bricks and sticks and stones of it. It's like, you've really got to think about that, because you don't want to put yourself in a really bad position, if that's not something that you've wanted like your whole life and, just really kind of desired. How big of a sacrifice are you really willing to make, for children in a position where you would not necessarily be taken care of, and it might put all of you in a really bad situation. So, I mean, I absolutely hear what you're saying, because there are lots of us that are living that lifestyle, and we're very happy childless. Like, we get to travel and do all sorts of things, but
I will point out, do not take romantic relationships from my grandmother either. Just
yeah, it was different back then.
it was no better. It was probably worse. Men love to bypass the very real biological advantage they have over women for 50-ish, 50-50 argument. One is testosterone. It's literally prescribed and used as a mood stabilizer in depressed patients. I mean, I think, well, you're opening yourself up for a lot of arguments, but I'm not going to allow that now because we have to continue. Tony, go ahead. Homosexual is a thing already. Period. Go ahead, Tony.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, there was a bunch of things I wanted to say, but I'm just going to try to shorten it. The main thing I wanted to say was that main question about women taking their mental health and their mental management over the Black community. And I'm going to be honest, from me, what y'all say and how y'all feel is your business. I don't see a purpose in the Black community being here. I really don't. I see no reason. I see no point. I see no purpose. Because when it comes to just having a family or being in a relationship, there's a lot of things to consider, just like, most of what was in the conversation. The 50-50 thing, I don't see, there's no such thing as a 50-50. Half the time, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's 100-100. And I think that equity should be what is focused on versus equality, because yeah, you want to see the person that you're with, like men and women, as equal, on a social standpoint. That's fine. But when you guys are in the house, it's like equity is most important, because there's one thing that people are missing in a relationship, and that's adaptation. At some point, somebody might end up doing all of the financial burden, or all of the maybe household burden, or in a woman's case, the childbearing burden, because when it comes to childbearing and child rearing, regardless of what relationship you're looking at, a woman is still going to end up being majority responsible for that child and anything having to do with whatever revolves around that child. It's you do your relationship the way you want to do it. I get that. But at some point, it's still gonna fall on the woman regardless. And if there's no kids, then you have the house, any type of home management. That's still a woman's responsibility.
I was writing a blog post that I'm not going to post, but I don't know why I keep doing this, announcing things that's not going to happen. But there was a quote in there that not me saying I quote myself, but I wrote something in there that I heard when you just were speaking. I remembered it. It was, what was it? 50-50 is a Trojan horse for dust. That's about it. I don't know why. As soon as you said it's 100, because what I'm saying is you should give 100 or whatever. But I whatever. It's useless. Go ahead.
Right. But yeah, but it's there's that, and then I mean you have the obvious war zone with black women every 6 hours, 5 hours, and dropping, not even counting and dropping. So having kids, the idea of having kids for black people is considerably different versus every other community as a whole. We'll have kids at the worst times. We'll get in relationships with the worst people at the worst times. We will see how someone is. Like when someone shows you who they are or tells you who they are, you hear the term, and when someone shows you who they are, believe them. We need to believe them the first time. We as black women tend to not do that. So even when someone is honest with you, because black men went from either hiding it or putting sugar on it or putting it in a nice, cute little package to just straight up telling you. They will straight up tell you now how they are, or they just won't tell you anything at all. And women will still go for that and go like, oh, it's great, it's perfect. And then all of a sudden when it, I guess, disadvantages you to the utmost, then you want to sit there and say, I didn't know what happened. Or, how come you didn't tell me? And they will tell you and you'll still go. So the idea of a black community needing to exist, not really, because we run ourselves to the ground. You have black men talking about, oh, the patriarchy is why we can't do this. The patriarchy, the white supremacy. White supremacy only works for white people, because with white supremacy, it involves white people or white men using white supremacy to benefit their communities at every other non-white person's expense, particularly black people. When black men try to sit there and use white supremacy and call it black supremacy now, all of a sudden, it's them using the concept of white supremacy on their own people at their own community's expense to impress white people and other communities. It's not, at some point, white supremacy has to end and your foolishness has to begin at some point. So it's like the way we do things is backwards, backhanded, upside down, twisted. It doesn't make any sense to continue this community when it's not really much of a community. We parasite off of each other thinking we're going to get anywhere. Where you think if you eat off your own tail, at some point you'll produce another head. It doesn't work. This black community thing does not work. However y'all feel, it's your thing. But me, I don't care. My mental health has to come first. At some point, you gotta leave.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
All right. When I think a lot of people have your sentiment, and I will never try to dissuade people of their thoughts. Even men have this idea that there's no black community. I am attempting to reignite my claim that there is, but I will not push back on you for your stance regarding the black community. Some of these people sound like what they are saying is, if I'm strong enough to make a baby, I'm strong enough to mine a man too. No, thank you. Toil. That person must have been Jamaican for when they say to take mine instead of take care of. Theme is announcing what he's not going to post, the way my anxiety is set up. LOL. All right, Prince Petty, go for it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So first of all, I came up here to defend this 50-50 king who I feel you are all attacking viciously. But before I defend him, I would like to say about TD Jakes, I think he suffers from the what I call the Clarence Thomas problem.
Pause. We're gonna watch TD Jakes quickly now.
Yes.
Play it. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to see what this is about.
Me too. I haven't seen it.
This breaks all sociological orders of the culture we're living in now. Because we are raising up women to be men. and you are not applauded for your femininity. You are applauded in the contemporary society by how tough, rough, nasty, mean, aggressive, hateful, possessive you are, and you are climbing the corporate ladder, but we are losing our families. I know you can buy your own car. I know you can buy your own house. But until you create a need that I can pour into, I have no place in your life. So stop coming home bragging to me about how much you don't need me and wonder why I shy away. Oh, y'all ain't gonna talk back to me this morning.
Yikes.
Mercy, wow.
Wait. Now you need to create a need.
Create a need. Oh God.
We're not allowed to comment on that foolishness. All right, go ahead, Prince Petty. No, we're not. I'm not doing that. No.
Black women simply quit your jobs and don't buy any food. Let a black man come and do it for you. I'm sure it'll go. Like I said privately earlier, I'm sure it'll go well. Just simply give up your education and resources, and the men will come and make up for it. I'm sure that's what will happen, right? Are we all in agreement?
Period.
But TD Jakes, I think, suffers from what I call the Clarence Thomas problem, right? They see an issue in abortion, so they repealed it, when what they should have looked at are the reasons why women cite that they get an abortion, which usually is due to lack of resources, partner support, etc., right? So instead of tackling the problem that creates the symptom, they attack the symptom, right? So instead of TD Jakes attacking the fact that, again, these women have a car and you don't, they have a house and you don't, they have a job and education and you don't, he's simply like, yeah, y'all gonna have to give that up, so because you're making us look bad. Like, it's, and then he didn't, I don't think he said masculine, did he? But it's kind of you have a job, so you're masculine, so there's also like this degrading aspect to it. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about TD Jakes.
Period. I said don't comment on TD Jakes, but period.
He calls them men, so yes, he's calling them masculine.
Now, you would think the whole panel would be against TD Jakes, so they would all be up here advocating for 50-50, where the man considers the woman's resources and finances.
Because that's the only alternative. Is that the only alternative?
Yes.
No, you could become better.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, huh? I become better. Does that change any? What does that really change though? If I become better,
really, so we have more resources. Wait, what do you? Am I being trolled? You become better.
I mean, in the egalitarian relationship aspect.
Who said the egalitarian relationship? We said be better. We didn't say anything about anything else. You're like, so why? It's almost like you're like, why should we be better? It's like,
allow me to translate what my partner was trying to say.
Absolutely not. I want him to hear the rest of what he's saying.
I thought we were coming back to the egalitarian question. That's why I brought it up again, because in an egalitarian relationship, both of our money matters, both of our contributions to the relationship matters, whatever they may be. No matter.
In an egalitarian relationship, if you become better, if you can provide more, wouldn't that be more income?
Yes, I understand that.
So why would you then say be better than what? Like, why are you dismissive of being better?
No, I'm not dismissive of being better. I thought we were on a different topic.
No, you just explained the topic you thought we were on, and I explained why even on that topic, being better is a good thing.
Yes, but it wouldn't change the relationship dynamics. I mean,
it hopefully wouldn't. I hope it doesn't. But being better does something for for you, your partner, your family. That's that.
Why would being better not be of something that would affect it? If that was the case, then women, black women in particular, wouldn't be asking for that. We wouldn't be making that request if being better wouldn't somehow produce some type of a more positive effect. Whereas maybe the first example would be lighten the load a little bit on this end, let's say, or I don't know, better social relationships inside the house, better relationships between me, the person I'm with, and if there are kids involved, the kids as well. Better community relations, better social relations. Like the way things are, clearly they're not that good. So being better, whether or not you're in a relationship, just as a human being socially, inside your house, outside your house, at some point being better than what you are, whatever that is, would improve you, and then you'll be able to apply whatever it is that you're being better at to your society, to your house, to whatever relationship you have with whoever's around you. So being better means that there's going to be some type of positive result or increase in a positive result compared to whatever you're dealing with now. So I'm not exactly sure how you say, what's the point of being better? As if somehow you are the only beneficiary of being better.
Yep. And even if you were, that would be enough. Be better for you. All right. We are
Right.
going to start now because my moderators are going to kill me because I did tell them to hold me accountable for 3 hours, and it's now 3 hours and 24 minutes. So everyone, uninterrupted, you will get 30 seconds. Period. Go off because I will be ringing this bell. So let's start with truth teller.
I just wanted to ask, as we're sitting here talking about the, egalitarian or what have you, and financial responsibility, I'm just curious, and maybe we can address this at a next live. What is the percentage of households, not only within the Black community, because we basically have an idea of the Black community, but generally speaking, in the general populace, how many people where is it that the men are the full breadwinner? Because I have a feeling that in the modern society, like just even outside
I
of
have the information in front of me.
Okay.
No. Well, you only have 30 seconds, so you can use that.
Two and four mothers
All
are
right.
breadwinners currently.
Absolutely not. You're not going to talk over me. You can use that 30 seconds to answer her question, but know that you only have 30 seconds. Go ahead. All right. He jumped off. Jack, go ahead.
Hello. So to be to the point, I think egalitarian relationships and marriage is important because it's more healthier and nurturing and more well-rounded, that the different things that men and women bring to relationships is valued equally. And that's about it.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Me too. Me, not me.
I actually agree with two of TD Jake's statements. We are raising women to be men in the Black community, quote unquote. I absolutely 100% agree with that. And he said that we are applauded for our toughness versus our femininity, and I absolutely agree with that as well.
All right. Before you go, I will say, I wish he had done the full statement. If it is true that we're raising women to be men, someone finish that statement.
What are we doing with the boys? Where are the men?
Then we're raising men to be women.
Exactly. So y'all just gonna sit here and pretend like, oh, we're just raising men to be women to be men, but the men are just here. No, if we're raising women to be men, and we're raising the opposite way, we're raising men to be women, and that's that and that. Go ahead, Prince Petty.
First, I want to address a comment that said I was an undercover Dusty. I'm very upfront about any and all dustiness that I display. Secondly, I will offer this point. Since you guys are fixated on childbirth, increasing a woman's value in the relationship should be 50-50 until the childbirth. until the pregnancy, in which case the man provide 100% during the pregnancy. And then you go back to 50-50.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead, Malik.
First of all, that's just the way of the future. What y'all talking about? Listen, it's the truth.
Ooh.
It's gonna be the truth. It's the way of the future. What y'all talking about? Most of you niggas is broke. Excuse my French. Y'all gonna have to get together, find someone at your means, and somehow work together to make something possible.
Period. And what about it? Period. You didn't even get a bell. That was short and sweet. Period. Concern. Go ahead.
My statement is that when I think about the femininity that these men allude to, they don't realize they inherently reject it every time we try to display it. They hate our beauty naturally, they hate our beauty artificially. They hate when we're mothers, and they hate when we depend on them. And so when I hear TD Jakes go up there and preach, I just think that he is pushing us further down, and that is not, and it's just so logically stupid. It's Black men should not complain about Black women's any of those things if they want Black women to be feminine.
All right. That was okay. Jamie, go ahead.
So I believe TD Jakes is pure concentrated patriarchy. Like I don't know why we're pretending like this isn't what patriarchy creates. It creates a society where men overvalue themselves and devalue women. And then we're gonna act like money isn't a part of that. It's how men overvalue themselves and devalue women.
No, I mean you can want to be a provider / protector without devaluing that which you're protecting. I hate that I'm going to do this. The argument that I thought the Christians were going to make was that women are so precious, and even use the word delicate, which would be really terrible. And if you're a feminist, you're probably dying right now. I apologize. And so, because of how much they need to be cared for, and how much they're valued, that we now need to go protect them. I thought that was the route that Christians would take in this dialogue, but that's not what happened. So
righteous condemnation is the way of the patriarchy right now in Christianity. So it wasn't going to go that way.
I would assume that in order to sell patriarchy to women, at least in the verbiage, that men would pretend like they're devaluing themselves and elevating women. At least in the language, but it don't look like they care.
All right, that's all I have to say. That's just how society has been advertising patriarchy since the beginning. We've just been pretending it didn't exist.
Yeah, well, that's not how I noticed it. When men were like, I'm the leader and you should shut up. That's how I've seen it. But thank you all for being here. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I really did appreciate this conversation. Have a wonderful night. Bye. That's your lawyer break kicking in females. Bigger picture, the only way to fix toxic patriarchy is for a group of people, likely men, to enforce a better system, which is still patriarchy. It seems inevitable either way. We will talk about the patriarchy next, whether or not it can be saved or should it be salvaged. And that's going to be that on that. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Sorry for the moderators, I failed.